the end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, it's Wednesday night, it's raining outside.
Yeah, it's been storming all day.
It has been storming all day.
Yeah, we got a tropical storm coming
Off
in.
and on.
It's pretty though.
I
Looks
mean, at
pretty
least
outside.
it's not hot. Well,
It
it's
didn't
still
get.
hot,
It's hot, but it didn't get
but
fucking.
not
Yeah.
as hot. Like, oh my god, kill me hot.
Sometimes when a storm comes, fucking a cold front will come in with it, and fucking it'll be like almost 100 degrees, 100% humidity, and then all of a sudden like a 64 degree fucking cold wind will blow in, and then a storm behind it. You know, it's kind of refreshing, but usually there's a hurricane involved though. It fucking tears your house
and tears your house up, and your power goes out, so you don't have air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, because when it passes,
and your
the
carpet
heat comes
starts
right
to
back.
smell like mold.
Yeah.
So not fun. Not fun.
Yeah, so today we got a good one. We got another serial killer case. That's what got
favorite.
voted on, and it's another European one, and it's a European cannibal. A cannibal case. She told me about it, and I was I don't know anything about it other than what she said. It sounded pretty fucking interesting.
Yeah, this is definitely giving me some Ed Gein energy.
Yeah.
This guy.
And it was a long time ago.
Oh my goodness! Thank you very much. We got a super chat.
Holy shit!
For Tom's birthday.
Thank you very much. Who is that?
Thank you very much. Wait, I can't even see the name. I'm afraid to click it because it might do something.
It's the shade.
Oh, okay, it's the shade. Okay,
yeah. Give me $50 super chat. Thank you very much.
Holy cow!
Man.
Thank you very so much. That's really nice. He had a nice birthday. It was pretty low key.
Yeah.
I took him out for Japanese
food. Yeah. And then we watched Farscape.
And then we had some cake.
Got
him a cake from the Publix bakery.
Yeah.
With fruit on it.
Yeah, the fruit.
It's called Strawberry Peach Sensation.
Yeah, it doesn't have any frosting. It uses.
Well, it does, but it's like that chantilly, like
yeah, it's not
that light frosting.
It's not butter based frosting.
Yeah, it's like
whipped cream based frosting.
Yeah.
So I can eat a lot of that. I love that butter based frosting, but it's so rich I can't eat very much of it.
Yeah, you can only eat like a little.
Yeah,
I mean, this one you can eat like a whole fucking.
This
chunk.
particular cake is a vanilla cake, 3 layers. With that whipped cream style frosting and a bunch of fresh fruit on it, fucking fresh red grapes, fresh fucking strawberries going all around it, fresh kiwi, peaches, and
and it's shaved almonds on the outside.
Yeah, shaved almonds all the way around the outside
that.
of it, and you can get it from Publix.
Hot damn,
that's
so
the
good.
one to get.
It's $30, but it's really
yeah.
Really
If you like to eat cake, that's the one you can get. Because a single person like me could sit down and eat half of that cake.
You could probably eat the whole cake.
Yeah.
If you were determined enough.
Because on a regular cake, the frosting's so rich, you got to stop eating. You're like, oh man, it's rich. Not this. This is very light and fucking refreshing.
Yeah, it's a very summery cake.
Very summer type cake. Yeah.
It is very good. He usually wants that for his birthday. So
yeah, that's what I like.
So I always order that one. Because, Publix has a million of amazing
That's my favorite cake.
But that's his favorite one from him, so that's what I got. And I also took him to Momiji, and he got some
Momiji's Japanese
sushi. I got a bento box.
Yeah, I got sushi.
With shrimp tempura.
Yeah, I got all the rolls. Got, like, crab rolls, fucking tuna rolls, fucking California roll. Got 3 rolls.
It looked really good.
It's good, yeah.
The bento box has sushi in it, too, but it also has, like, tempura. It has, like, lots of different things.
Yeah. So, is everybody here?
Most people are here.
Okay. Yeah.
Zach says, what is it with the German serial killers being the most fucked up always seems like? I was kind of wondering that too. And like, I was going to say that this motherfucker here was one of only 3, at least famous kinda, cannibal serial killers in Germany / Poland around this same time period. One of whom we've already done a show about, who was Fritz Harman, who is actually, I think we've already done a show about him. And he was actually pretty similar to this guy. So much so that if you search this guy's name, Karl Denke, inevitably a picture of Fritz Harman will come up. And every single podcast I've seen about him, and even the AI and everything like that, if you Google Karl Denke, Fritz Harman's picture comes up, and I'm like, that's not Karl Denke.
Yeah.
The only known picture of Karl Denke is the one they took of him in his coffin after he unalived himself, which is the one that I used for the thumbnail. That is the only picture of him. The picture that usually comes up, the dude with the hat, that's Fritz Harman, who was another crazy cannibal serial killer from this time period.
I think the reason why the Germans serial killers are so weird, probably for the same reason that German porn is so weird. They're kind of a reserved and uptight, kind of disciplined kind of people, and when they fucking go crazy, when they do crazy shit, it comes out a different way.
They just go all out.
Yeah, it comes out being, I don't know, it's just
I'm not
something
really
about
sure what it is either, because
I think
even
Germany's kind of a restricted, tight society where you have to think a certain way and do certain things, and if you're outside what's the norm there, then you're just wrong. They don't like things that are different. So when some dude does try to be different, it's like a parallel universe version, different, kind of like with the Japanese. When they're different, they're kind of odd too. Yeah. When Americans are different, they just kind of come off as kind of scummy or fucking super sexy. But, I'm not going to say the Germans aren't sexy. I had a German girlfriend for a while when I was in Boston. She was sexy, but she was fucking loving. She loved the freewheeling, kind of spontaneous energy of the American scene in Boston, even though, like, I'm thinking, the Boston's uptight. It's kind of like our version of London. You know what I mean? She would have really liked the South, probably. But, it's just something about that particular European culture is they don't see themselves as restricted, but they're kind of introverted, and they don't kind of like constantly trying to keep themselves under control. I went through Germany on my way to Egypt when I was in the army. I liked it. They had really good food. The people were nice, but I was only there for like a couple days.
I've heard Germany's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and that was back in the 90s.
Unfortunately, I've never been, but I've heard it.
I would have liked to have spent some more time there. Now, our friend Sarah went there, and she liked Germany.
She's not my friend, honey.
Yeah. I call her friend. Yeah. She chick was trying to fuck me, but Jim was always fighting with her. She went to Germany and lived there with a German guy for a couple years, but she's back now. And she liked Germany for a while, but then in the end, she's like, no, Germans are assholes. So I was like, why are they assholes? He goes, they constantly have to tell you what they think about you and your country. And I was like, oh, okay, well,
Or maybe she was just an asshole and it just came across like that. I mean, because she kind of was an asshole. And probably still is, I don't know.
she was a weird chick. Jen was has an rivalry.
I still like her.
You beat her ass, though.
I know.
So don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
She literally beat her ass.
Yeah.
But,
not like no cops were called or nothing.
No.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Gentlemen,
something
you want to
about
go with
her,
the woman that fights for you.
Something about her just, ever since the first time I met her, just rubbed me the wrong fucking way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She was try hard.
Yeah, and I don't like try hard. I don't like try hard people.
But she wasn't German, so don't mix that in with the Germans.
She was irritating as fuck.
But she just...
No, she's American.
Yeah, she's American. And she just...
Some of us suck, too.
Yeah. After a few years living there, though, she said she didn't really like it. She came back. She's back now.
But I think, the thing, too, that might have also been a factor, although I'm not sure how much of a part this played, but I am going to say that because of the high number of cannibal-type serial killers from this era in Germany / Poland / Prussia, was probably because of the economic conditions. I'm sure that because, a lot of people were starving, there was hyperinflation, there was all this other kind of shit going on, like people have been through, World War I and all this other kind of crap. So I kind of feel like maybe, a few of them kind of were like, got super desperate and it's like, granddad died and we're real hungry. Why don't you just cut a little piece of the thing? And then like after that, after you've crossed that taboo, like maybe it's like easier to like do it again. I'm not really sure. But, or here's the more likely scenario though. I kind of feel like these dudes, Karl Denke and the other cannibal dudes that were going on at the same time, I think they might have used that as a cover and like as an excuse for doing the shit that they would have done anyway. Because honestly, the shit they were doing, that's not normal. I don't even think most normal people could be coaxed into that. Like,
no, I've always this type of dude. I've always seen the cannibalism as a sexual fetish. It's fetishy behavior. There's a lot of other kind of cannibalisms in human history that is like cannibalism just out of necessity, like the Donner Party. The people are starving, and as people die, you just eat them.
yeah.
Okay. They don't want to eat. They don't want to eat people. They're just trying to live.
Yeah, like the rugby players that crashed in the Andes. It's like they weren't happy about it, but it's like we don't want to die either.
Yeah.
Like you can't blame them.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That, and then there's like all throughout Mesoamerican history, you know, the Mexicans, the Mayans, and the Inca, and even like some of the island warriors and shit, and even the Native Americans. Some of the tribes there. They were cannibals, okay, but it was more a thing out of hatred and victory. When you killed an enemy, you wanted to eat him, okay, and the explanation is that you're gaining his power. They do it to in Africa today. There's still cannibalism going on, and it usually has something to do with some magical thinking, you know, fucking I'll eat him and it'll, you know, eating a fucking albino. An African albino child will cure you of AIDS. You know, they'll believe shit like that. Or you score a victory over a hated enemy and you eat him as a form of disrespect. That you're now absorbing his essence and you're gonna shit him out. You know what I mean? Fucking, just really what it is. You know.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of like the ultimate indignity.
Right. Or it could be. Another type of I'm not gonna call them primitive people. I'm gonna call them fucking actual people. You know, people in the wild, which that's where most of human history was like that. Or it could be more of a thing where it's more like an honor. You know what I mean? Like, hey, he was a great warrior. I killed him, and now I'm gonna absorb his essence, and he will live within me, type of deal. Or it could be a thing where an ancestor dies, so you eat them in order to get a good protein meal. It's kind of like done at the damn banquet, the funeral banquet. You know, where they die and they leave a gift of meat, you know, to their friends and relatives. That happens. So not all cannibalism is the same. But when you have cannibalism like this, I think it's fucking sexual.
Although this dude was kind of weird. Like I said, this dude gives me a real Ed Gein kind of vibe in the sense that he almost came across, from everyone that talked about him, there's not a massive amount of information about him because it was a long time ago and a lot of the sources are in another language. But from all of the stuff that has kind of filtered out, most of the people that knew him, his brothers and stuff like that, said he was almost like asexual. You know what I mean?
This may have been his sex, though.
So this might have been.
Yeah.
And I was listening to, there's a funny Time Suck episode about this guy, and he said that a report that came out about him in 1926 said that there didn't seem to be any sexual motive, blah, blah, blah. But Dan Cummins on Time Suck is like, I'm not really sure how they could say that. It's like, yeah, it's like they couldn't really tell probably if he had like raped any of the, or if he was a necro. It's like maybe he jerked off on them or something like that. It's like you don't really know.
The basic human functions are to eat and to reproduce. All right? So eating and sex. I think what they do is they kind of merge the same thing, where they're eating someone and they're getting sexual gratification out of it.
Yeah.
That's probably what's happening. Because he's not doing it out of necessity. You know what I mean? He's getting something out of it, some kind of a enjoyment, some kind of a thrill, which that might be. If you say he's an asexual like guy, maybe he was just like eating and like jerking it while he's eating it. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
kind of
like because that would be kind of like,
thinking.
he's probably thinking it's like the ultimate form of sex. He's taking that person into their body and merging.
He's
with
like
them.
being a vor, but
like a vor,
for
right?
real.
Exactly. If you got tell them what the vor subculture is.
Well, that's just a fetish about eating someone or being eaten.
Yeah.
Usually by a larger creature or a larger person or something like that. But
he was probably a vor.
Yeah, but he like took that shit seriously.
Yeah.
Well, and like speaking of cannibals, if we're talking about more recent shit, we also did a show about Armin Meiwes, the guy that ate the guy that wanted to be eaten.
Yeah, they were
said.
bored.
So they met like in the fetish community.
Yeah. That's what it. I think
he was German too. They were German too.
You know, people are gonna land on some freaky shit.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you have enough people, there's going to be a certain amount of people landed on some square that is some
really
freaky shit. And this guy just landed on that freaky ass Vor square where he was probably sexualizing the thought of eating someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I get how someone can get from point A to point B, but I've never, I must admit, I've never really thought of that in a sexual way, really. But I can see how it could happen, though.
Only thing I can think of is, when I was like about 5 or 6, there was a little girl that lived across the street named Lisa, and Lisa was cute as hell. And I was attracted to her, but when you're that young, you don't have any concept of sex.
Right.
And I would think like, I bet you she tastes good,
So Tom was like a budding.
Yeah, but
cannibal.
but it never really got into any graphic imagery of like
actually
killing her and cutting someone up like a meal. It's not
and,
what
like,
it
cooking
is.
her and stuff.
Just because you don't know how to like express to yourself what the attraction is.
Right.
So when you're that young, it's the only thing you can think of is hunger.
Yeah, and like shit that tastes
hunger.
good.
Right.
And it's like, I like bacon.
Yeah,
and I also like that girl.
Yeah, like, wow.
So she must be like, maybe she tastes like bacon.
Yeah.
She probably does, actually.
But you're not really thinking of it in the mechanical way. It's just like, you want to consume her in some way, but you don't have a concept of sex yet.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
And I really didn't think of it as eating her. It's just that you wanted her to like somehow kind of like absorb. So that's probably what it is.
So maybe it's
something very primitive
yeah.
and very underdeveloped. In other words, like infantile. It might be like an infantile
That's what I was just
drive.
gonna say. It's something that they didn't like grow out of.
Yeah, kind of like he never got to the stage where you can separate eating from reproducing, or liking or eating and fucking were merged into one thing.
Yeah.
But must have been about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
When I
don't
remember
think I ever
that.
thought of that about it.
Yeah.
Not that I can remember.
And I can also remember that maybe like it might have had something to do with like peeing on people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you don't know what sperm and ejaculation is.
Right.
So the only thing you know is like peeing also, So maybe like, maybe I should pee on her.
I do remember some
like
little kids that didn't get very good sex education at home, I'm guessing, thought that that's how you made babies.
Yeah, by peeing. You
pee on somebody,
you
pee in somebody.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
I can remember being a little kid thinking things like that.
That's not. I don't think that's that unusual.
So I think what happens is that you have these. This is a long time ago. Not good sex education, and some people don't develop normally. They stay in a very infantile, regressed state. Probably is what it is.
Right.
Where eating and reproduction are kind of haven't diverged into two different things. That's the only thing I can think of. But from my own personal experiences. Now, of course, I didn't eat anybody, and I didn't pee on anybody. I was too little. But I do remember by the time I'm like 7 or 8, I'm looking at fucking my mom's friend's boobs, and I'm going, God, yeah, I became a boob man at the age of like 7.
I just want to jump in.
Yeah, I want to fucking suck on those things.
Yeah.
Fucking, I don't remember breastfeeding, but it's just something that is.
No, I don't remember it.
I don't remember.
I did, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I was breastfed too. I don't remember it, but I remember fucking looking at my mom's friends when I was, 6, 7, 8, and they must have been in their 20s. You know what I mean? Going fucking, she's got some great boobs.
Nice rack.
Yeah. Looking at booties. So in American culture, little kids are not supposed to have any kind of sexuality to them, but I did.
I did as well.
Yeah.
I think most kids do.
Yeah.
And I think most parents will back you up on that.
And I've seen video memes of little boys, like in the audience when there's like a famous woman around and she's got a fucking, nice rack, and the little boy's looking at her going, hell yeah. And any man knows what the kid's thinking. He's going, God, she's got some nice boobs.
Like I said, I think it's very common.
And he's probably
it's just they don't have the
8.
context and they don't really understand everything about it yet.
Yeah.
But it's just like they have those feelings.
That kid did. He was probably, he was probably about 8.
I'm just saying, like, even by the time I was 5 or 6 years old,
yeah.
Like, you have feelings like that. Maybe even younger.
By the time I was 8, I knew what a good rack was and what a nice ass was.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. And I was attracted to older women, women my own age, or girls my own age, just whatever. I tended to be older, though. If they had curves, if they were past puberty, I was fucking all about it. And I was about 8, 9. Yeah, hell yeah.
Tammy says, off topic, but I couldn't find where you reviewed Boondock Saints. Yeah, I couldn't remember if we did or not. I thought probably not. I have seen it several times. So if you did, it's not up on your channel anymore, so a review of that would be nice. Yeah, I mean, maybe I wrote it down, so maybe we can do that. Zach says, I went to Germany after high school. I missed the food and the public transport. Yeah, I mean, the public transport in Europe is, like, so good. You can just, like, fucking walk and get on a train. You can get fucking anywhere, and it's, like, cheap and
Yeah, but
it's
you're in a
awesome.
city, though.
That's okay.
But you can do that here in the city.
Well, yeah, in a city you can do that here, but, like, out here you can't.
In Boston, you can do that.
And then, in New York you can do that, too.
You just don't want to because a lot of times there's fucking bad people out there.
I never had problems. Like, I never had problems.
Shit, even in Boston when I was there, some of those lines, like fucking Orange Line, pretty fucking bad. That was the ghetto.
Yeah, but like I said, I never had any problems. Zach said, did you guys ever do a show about those rugby players in the plane crash? I don't think we ever did. I think we talked about, because I watched the movie about it that I think was on Netflix. That it's a good movie, by the way. I read the book about it like a long time ago. That I think, and they made a movie about it before that was called Alive. I think they made that back in the '90s or something. Like after the book came out.
I read the book in the fucking 8th grade.
Yeah, like I said, the book came out a long time ago.
Yeah,
but
Alive.
I don't think we've done a show about that, but I wrote that down too because that actually probably would be a good show. That was a fucking bummer. Well, I mean, it wasn't. But plane crashes like freaked me out because
all they had to do was come off the mountain and walk, and they'd eventually found a road.
Yeah, but they didn't know that.
Right there.
They didn't know that, so that's what kind of sucks about it.
It's called departure delayed inertia or some shit like that. The longer you stay in one spot, the longer you'll just stay there, and then you'll be too weak to leave. This happened to the daughter party.
Yeah, that's kind of the hell of it, isn't it? And you don't really know because the same kind of thing has happened with people that got stranded out in the desert or something like that. It's like. Yeah. You don't really know. It's like, should I set out and start walking? It's like there might not be anything for days and days, and you might die of dehydration, but there might be a road just like a few miles away. You don't know.
Now, and I'm somebody that,
I gotta pee.
Okay, I'm ex airborne infantry, did a lot of time in the field with the old army. If you stay in one spot, you die. Okay. If you're ever in a situation like that, or you're in a group of people, like a plane crash, and you're on top of a mountain, and they say, no, we'll just stay here, rescue's coming. No. Maybe in the modern era, a little bit better chances. If you want to live, the best thing you do is just start walking. And you don't even need to know really what the direction is. Just walk in a random direction. As long as you can, eventually you'll hit a road. Once you hit a road, just follow the road. You'll eventually end up somewhere. And that, your chances are a lot better if you do that versus if you just stay in a place. Now, I can understand, you crash in a plane and you might want to stay there, but if a couple days pass, they don't know where you are. You leave. Now, when you leave, a lot of people try to stop you from leaving. No, don't go, don't listen to them. Just fucking leave. And if you're anywhere in the North American continent, chances are you'll hit a road within a day. Because there are very few places in the North American continent that are totally undeveloped. Exception of maybe like certain places of Washington State and Canada. If you crash anywhere inside the continental United States and you walk in a direction for longer than a day, you're going to hit a road. They're everywhere. Even if it's a dirt road. So, no, don't stay. Not longer than a couple days.
Well, yeah, after a little while, you'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, if it's like 2 days and nobody shows up, so they don't know where we are, we gotta get out of here.
Hydej says, hello, everyone. What crazy person are we discussing tonight?
It's the title of the show.
Karl Denke.
Yeah, German cannibal.
I mean, technically, I'm not really sure how to say, because technically, when he was born in Silesia, which was Prussia. And at the time he was born, I think it was technically Poland, but then later it came under German rule, but then later became Poland again, and it is indeed where he was born is now part of Poland. So, I don't know if you could really call him a German serial killer. Maybe Prussian, maybe Polish, because where it is now is in Poland. But, where he was born was kind of a contested area over the years. So, I don't want to besmirch all of Germany because of this guy. Although they had some other ones that were going on at the same time, like I said, that actually were German. So, there's that. All right, so do you want to get started on this, dude? Or,
go ahead, go. Everybody's here.
All right, so we're going to get started on this motherfucker here.
And then I'll make you another drink. Actually, you can use some more ice, huh?
I just need more ice. Because I still got some booze in there. Because I made it kind of strong. Yeah. My regular glass that I use, my hand slipped the other day when I was cleaning it, and I broke it. So I got a jar, and I'm not used to mixing the drinks in the jar because it's wider, and so I'm like pouring it in there being like, because I used to eyeball it, and now I'm just like, oh shit. Like, how much is it good to go in there now? I don't measure. So last time I made a drink in this, it's like I made it way too strong because I was just pouring it in there trying to get it a certain level, and then I'm like, oh wait, the bottom of this glass is like way wider, so I'm gonna be in big trouble. It'll be all right because all the ice is melted into it, and then that ice is gonna melt into it too, so it should be fine. All right, so this guy, Karl Denke, and I apologize in advance for all of the sad mispronunciations that I'm sure to, all the language butchering I'm sure to do. I did try to look up, like, some city, it's not too bad, but, like, some of the city names and stuff like that. I did kind of try to go on Forvo and, like, listen to native speakers, like, say what it was, but it's pretty crazy. And it's weird because my stepmom, who I just don't see her that much, but she's Polish, but I never really learned like anything like to say anything in Poland or pronounce anything in Polish or anything like that. So this guy was actually born in 1870. The dates differ because, like I said, there's not like a huge amount about his early life. They don't know that much about him. Because, like I said, it was a long time ago. And honestly, he kind of got forgotten about until after World War II. Like, when somebody bought his old house and, like, found some bones and stuff. And then people were like, what the fuck went on here? And then, like, it kind of got rediscovered. But some sources I've seen said he was born in 1860. Some say 1870. But I think most of the more reliable ones say 1870. So I'm going to say 1870. So he was born, like I said, in a place called Kunzendorf in Silesia in Prussia, which is now part of Poland. Now, they don't know a huge amount about his childhood. His parents were apparently farmers, but they had like a pretty prosperous farm. Like, I've seen everything from middle class to upper middle class to wealthy. So they were doing okay.
Farm people made money.
Not everybody did, but his family particularly did.
Depending on the size of the farm, what they were doing.
Yeah, so apparently they were doing okay. And I've also heard that they might have owned a couple of other businesses too, like maybe a nursery and a restaurant and stuff. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have heard that also. Now, he was, I think, the youngest of 3 brothers. And as a child, he seemed to have some, let's call them developmental difficulties. For one thing, probably the most pronounced thing, was that he did not talk until he was 6 or 7 years old.
Well, that goes to what I was saying, that the developmental problems where they kind of regressed.
Yeah. And even when he did start to talk, they said he didn't talk a lot. Like, he seemed like real introverted and shit like that. And when he was in school, because this was Germany in the late 19th century, early 20th century, his teachers basically just straight up called him an idiot.
Yeah.
They thought he was stupid. And they said he was very obstinate, like he was a very slow learner. He just couldn't get it or didn't want to get it or something. And he just like really kept to himself. I don't know if he was bullied or anything like that, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence that he was abused by his family or anything, but who knows? I'm sure like abuse was a lot more common back then than it is now, so maybe people thought it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah,
he was slow.
By all accounts, he did seem like he was kind of slow.
Yeah.
And like I said,
so was Ed Gein.
That's why this guy gives me Ed Gein, and not just because nipple belt,
right.
Which we'll get to. He didn't make any nipple belts, but he did do some other stuff with nipples, so so we'll get there. But that's why, and he was, like I said, kind of not. He wasn't like obsessed with his mom like Ed Gein was, like that kind of freaky thing, and he wanted to make a woman suit so he could be his mom. this guy had a slightly different thing going on, but I think it was like a similar pathology, you know? Like same kind of like asexual, not seeming to be interested in sex at all, but fascinated by making stuff like out of bones and skin and whatnot. So like I said, kind of a stupid kid, at least according to his teachers, because they just straight up call you an idiot back then. They didn't give a single fuck. And also, it seemed like I believe he only went to school until he was 12 years old, because they said another thing that he would do a lot was that he would run away from home all the time. And I think he was younger than 12 the first time, but he kept running away, and they'd find him like wandering out in the woods by himself because he was real into doing that. And like sometimes the cops would bring him back, but one time, evidently, he was gone for 9 months when he was like 11 or 12 years old. And I'm not sure if his parents didn't really give that much of a crap that he was gone. It's like, hey, one last mouth to feed. I don't know. But I don't know if they looked for him or what. But while he was gone, he apparently was wandering around in the woods and like, I don't know if he was sleeping out there. And he like took some odd jobs. Like, this is an 11 or 12-year-old kid. Like working at a quarry and...
Yeah, well, they did that
shit like, yeah, like shit like that.
Children were treated as adults.
They were. Yeah, and once you were 11 or 12, I guess, it's like they were kind of like, yeah, you're grown up now, get the fuck out.
Yeah, and that included prostitution also.
Yeah, well, yeah. I know. So, Heiser says, there's that Prussia again. I'm telling you, that's a hotbed of serial killers.
The European and American, the Western culture was weird about childhood. Even in the United States, in the early parts of it. It wasn't really until the 1900s there was even a concept of childhood. The motherfuckers were put to work instantly.
Yeah,
as soon as they could work, they were put to work.
Yeah.
And they were also target for sexual abuse.
Well, yeah.
That's why Carl Panzram fucking...
Too small to fight back, aren't they?
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. People are fucking psychopaths back then, to be honest.
They just didn't differentiate.
Yeah.
Like, you're smaller, so I can do what I want with you.
Well, yeah.
Basically,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, might made right.
Which, like I said, that's a fucked up... That's the way a psychopath thinks.
Most of the world is kind of like that, though. Even Brazil was a little bit like that when I was there in the 80s.
Yeah, but that's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucked up.
It's primitive.
Yeah.
Power dynamic. It all goes down to power dynamic.
Yeah. Like I said, you're smaller, so I can do whatever the fuck
You're smaller and you're poor.
Yeah, no one's going to do anything.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, are you and Tom going to watch the Ed Gein thing?
No.
I'm really curious about it, considering that the American Horror Story people are making it. Yeah, I'll probably get around to it one of these days.
Yeah, it's on fucking it's on a platform we don't have though.
What's it on?
The Ed Gein story was on Netflix, right?
Oh, okay.
That was Netflix.
Well, like I said, I'm gonna get on Netflix for like a month or something and watch some shit.
Okay, and then get off
of it.
Okay.
Because we don't have it anymore. But if there's good stuff on there, like I said, I'll just sign up for a month and watch it and then just cancel it again. You know what I mean? Because I have enough other stuff. We never run out of stuff to watch. So he's gone for 9 months, and then he just shows back up at home like nothing happened. Like, hey y'all, it's just like went back to being a 12-year-old.
And he was working in a quarry. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he did several odd jobs. I think he worked at a nursery or like on a farm or something. He worked at a quarry. Like also he was doing like odd job type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was sleeping out in the woods or if he found some place to sleep or
they might have housed him.
I don't really know. But like I said, so he
got sick of that shit. He left home. Fuck it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they said he did that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Despite that, I don't really know if there was any abuse going on at home. It wouldn't shock me, because like I said, it was a lot more common back then.
Either that or neglect.
But yeah, they might have been neglecting him
yeah.
Also. So.
Have you noticed the serial killers
or maybe he was just a nut. I don't know.
Anybody who's like a serial killer or the weird shit, a lot of times, most of the time, it's not abuse really that creates it. It's more like neglect.
Yeah.
Fucking. Yeah. Think about it. Look at the family histories. Fucking. What's his name? Damn. The fucking Jeffrey Dahmer. He wasn't abused. He was just kind of neglected. They didn't. They just kind of didn't really pay attention. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah. Well, that's its own kind of abuse. Like
yeah. And then
not giving a crap
same
about
thing
you.
with fucking Bundy. He wasn't abused.
No.
He was just kind of neglected, kind of ignored. So I think that's more dangerous than abuse, actually.
It might be, even though on its face it doesn't seem like it, because it seems like, oh, it's not as bad. You're not getting punched out or sexually abused or anything
If
like
you're getting
that.
punched out or abused, that usually means that you're at least important enough to gain attention.
That's what I mean.
If
So
you're being ignored, then and you know what I mean.
then it's like you don't even matter.
You don't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I can see that.
right, and that's you know, I think the thing that set Dahmer off is that his parents basically left him in the house. They divorced and left him there,
Yeah.
and he was just on his own. And that's really when he fucking went off the deep edge.
Yeah. I mean, he was kind of fucked up before,
He
but
fucked up
I
before,
think
but
that was like the catalyst.
That was the
though.
thing. Yeah, his parents divorced and left him in the house.
Yeah.
I guess the house was paid for.
I guess
I
so.
guess.
Because I don't think he was paying for it.
He was really young, you know, like he was like 17 in that house.
Yeah, I think he was still in high school.
Yeah,
if I
still in
remember
high
correctly.
And he was already a little bit messed up, but make you feel like you don't matter.
Yeah. And like I said, when we've said this a million times before, it's not like we're excusing anything that they did, because, yeah, a lot of serial killers were abused when they were young, but a lot of regular people were abused when they were young, too, and they didn't turn out to be serial killers. I think that something else has to be present.
Yeah. And McDuff, he was a bad serial killer, he wasn't abused either. His mother doted on him and shit, but they also didn't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
It was like a weird mixture of praising him and then kind of like not caring where he was or what he did.
Yeah.
So that seems to be...
Because that does seem to be, like I said, if
Yeah.
your parents, who are supposed to love you more than anything and protect you and all this other kind of stuff, if they really don't seem to give a crap about you, like I said, it's almost worse than them beating you up, because at least when they're beating you up, at least they care what you're doing enough to like beat the shit
They're
out of you.
recognizing your existence.
They're recognizing that you exist, but it's
Yeah.
like if they don't even give a shit, it's like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? They don't even notice you're gone like for days at a time or something like that. Then yeah, I could see how that would be.
And Ed Kemper wasn't really abused physically. His mother just kept rejecting him.
Yeah.
So, you know, didn't trust him around his little sisters and shit like that.
I mean, probably rightfully so, but that's
I
the
don't know,
thing.
I think it made it worse.
It does, but that's the thing, and I think we talked about, because I think we did the show about Ed Kemper, I think we might have talked about this, and I was like, I know that the mothers of serial killers always get a lot of flack, and the thing about it is that I'm not sure, it might just be this horrible, unavoidable, I don't know if it's unavoidable, but like a sort of unavoidable like feedback loop, because it's like the mother might have this kid and be like, man, something's really wrong with this kid, and then they feel bad, and they try to treat the kid normal, but you can't. Like, it's leaching out because you know something's not right.
Yeah.
The kid senses that and acts out, which makes you feel like, holy crap, this kid's really fucked up. And then it's just like becomes this horrible dynamic that really, I'm not really sure it can be fixed.
Carl Panzram didn't matter. He ended up in an orphanage, and the orphanages and prisons abused him, and he turned him into a monster. So I don't think it's family abuse. It's more like neglect and rejection.
Or it could be either thing. Well, because like I said, neglect is a form of abuse for real. But
Well, think about it. Name one of those serial killers that was actually the family was going out of the way to abuse them. It's usually not what it is.
well,
It's usually more like a neglect,
yeah.
not caring,
Or some
indifference.
kind of weird, or just some kind of weird dynamic all around.
I think I'm of the opinion that neglect or indifference from the parents is worse than, or has worse fucking impact than straight up abuse. Oh, straight up abuse might cause other problems.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to fucking serial killers, I think they tend to be more neglected. And this is kind of like a fucking trying to get attention. It's almost like attention-seeking behavior. And they're also falling into their own world, their own version of reality. They're in a parallel world.
I'm gonna
Because
say
they're kind of like a loner.
This guy for real, Karl Denke, was by all accounts a weird loner.
Yeah.
Some people, modern people, have even speculated that he might have been on the spectrum, which some of the shit kind of sounds like that, but I don't know. I'm not sure. You can't really diagnose somebody from that long ago, but he did sound like he was definitely not right in some way. Tasteful Thickness says humans are incredibly sensitive. Even not holding infants is enough for them to die, even if they have enough food and water. Yeah, I've heard that. Like that some babies, if you just don't give them any attention, will just die of neglect.
Even like young animals will choose comfort over food.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why your cats keep coming up fucking bothering you. They got food. They want attention.
They've actually, it's crazy because
Yeah.
I think people think of cats as aloof, but they've done numerous studies that showed it's like, well, did cats prefer food or their person?
Yeah, human contact.
And it's their person every
Yeah.
single time.
Yep.
They always go
I
to their
can't
person.
get Pookie away from me. She just,
Pookie is in his face
constantly
24/7.
If I'm around and she's hey.
When she sleeps, when he sleeps, she climbs up on his chest and looks at him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
She's. I say I'm her daddy, but I was telling Jenny Owen. I says actually the vibe is more like I'm her boyfriend. I think she thinks I'm her boyfriend.
I know.
Yeah.
Because like he'll just be sitting there like on the bed, like on his tablet or something, and she'll just come up and start rubbing on the tablet, trying to knock it out of his hands.
Stop it.
Like trying to come around in front of it, like smacking it and stuff.
Yeah.
Doing headbutt.
Yeah.
She does that to me too, but not as much.
Yeah. She thinks I'm her boyfriend. I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, don't fuck with mommy. Just hang out with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Camp Guy says, Panzram's last words to the hangman, get on with it, you imbecile. I could have already killed 10 men by now. Yeah, I remember that. That dude was... He had some issues. Yeah.
Evil. That dude was an evil man.
He was fucking evil.
Yeah.
Like I said, I watched the time suck about him, like, a while back, and it was called One Man Apocalypse.
Yeah.
It was a pretty apt description.
He was like an expressly homosexual serial killer. After boys and men. That was it.
Yeah.
Never fucked with women, never hurt women.
It's kind of rare.
He hated men and boys. Because what happened to him in orphanages and prisons. Weird dude. He'd pull fucking guns on dudes and bums into train cars and shit and make them have sex with each other and then kill them. He did all kinds of shit. Take little boys out, fucking tie them up, fucking in a rowboat, drown them. He hated men of all types, and he just was like a relentless killer of dudes. And sexual assault too, but I don't think he was actually gay. I think it was a power thing.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe.
Yeah.
Tammy said, I would have rather been ignored in my childhood. Stigor said, yeah, same. Yeah, I get that. And like I said, I have heard, I've known some people that were horribly abused when they were children, and they said the same too. It's like, yeah, man, I wish I had the luxury of being abused. It's like, or of being ignored, rather.
I think it just gives different effects.
It's just, yeah, it's all bad. Like I said, neglect is abuse too. I'm not saying physical abuse is quote unquote better or anything like that. It's all bad. It's just that I think it might have slightly different outcomes, but as I've said many times before, I think for somebody to become a serial killer, it has to have like a perfect storm. I don't think they're either born or made. Now, I'm not saying that some people are born real fucked up, and I'm really not sure if it can be fixed, because some people are maybe just not redeemable, you know what I mean, unfortunately, because their just wires are crossed and there's nothing you can do about it. So even if you gave them like the most loving upbringing ever and every opportunity and stuff, they would still be fucked up. Sadly. I think that's very rare. But the thing about it is that even somebody with proclivities in that direction, I think if they grew up in like a loving household, they might turn out okay. They might have some minor problems, but not serial killer. But I think that a lot of serial killers have the whole package. It's like they're kind of born with their wires crossed, and then they get in these kind of fucked up family situations that aren't ideal, and it just all kind of comes to a head. But like I said, normally I think that obviously there are outliers, but I think that there usually has to be like a back and forth between those two things, nature and nurture. I don't think it's one thing or the other, because everything is more complicated than that, always. So yeah, so this kid, he's 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old, somewhere around there. Wanders off for 9 months, works and stuff, and then shows back up at his house like, hey fam, was just out making some money or whatever the fuck, I don't know. I will also note that one thing that a lot of people said about him was that even though he didn't seem to be super overt about it, he seemed to be a kind of a woman hater. Like he was a pretty clear misogynist. Though it's not real obvious why this was. Like I said, there wasn't any evidence that like his mom beat him or was more overbearing than usual or anything like that, so I'm not really sure where this attitude came from. And like I said, it's not like he really acted on it, because most of the people he killed people through opportunity. He did kill some women, but he killed a lot of men too. And like I said, it didn't seem like it was like he was doing it for, oh, I think this person's hot or whatever. It was just like whoever wandered into his path and was like, it was an opportunistic kind of killing. He was that kind of killer. So I don't know. But like I said, most people did say he was like a huge woman hater. So he left school, I believe, when he was 12 years old. Obviously, he didn't finish, you know, but he didn't really like school anyway, and everyone thought he was kind of like the hard R word. So he was just like, yeah, I'm out of here. So he went and got a job at like 12, like a full-time job, I'm assuming. And he actually became a gardener's apprentice. And he apparently did this for many years. Like, he could hold a job and stuff, so he wasn't that stupid. But, or, you know, whatever. Like I said, he could actually hold a job. Ooh, we got some more money from Papa77. Thank you very much. Yeah. Happy belated birthday, Tom. Well,
thank you very much. Thank you for laying out some bread. Or fucking Shabby fucking sent me 50. I'm jacked. You guys are almost going to get laid. You keep sending that shit. It's going to be like
Tom's going to come through your screen.
Yeah.
Just like that chick in the ring.
We're going to have a devil's threesome going on.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Jen will fucking videotape that shit. We don't have videotape, but she recorded that shit.
Yeah. We sound old. We're going to videotape that.
Yeah, I keep fucking saying we're going to tape it.
Yeah.
Man, it's like, oh man.
I know. Yeah, don't say that. Yeah. Because then, like, all the kids would be like, "What's that?
What's tape it? What does tape it mean?"
I mean, I think they probably do know what that means, but you know what I mean. I think it's funny still that a lot of apps and websites and stuff like that, for their save icon, they still use like a little floppy disk. Which I think that's so funny.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like probably people don't even know what the fuck that is anymore. It's like I was a little kid when they used those. Well, speaking of Pookie.
Get your little fat ass up here. Put your claws in.
Hi, little chub.
Get your claws. Yeah. Scratch it.
Tammy says, get out the film reels.
Yeah.
Oh, and Papa77 says, how much more to get laid? LOL.
Send me a couple more.
Now he's got to do some quick calculations.
I got to do some calculations.
In his head.
Yeah, you got to. You got to pay my air flight.
I was gonna say, I got to pay travel.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. You guys live kind of far. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. See, you should have said, you keep running your mouth, and one of these people is gonna take you.
That's a fetish couple. So
take you up on it.
That's a fetish. That's a fetish couple. So they're gonna play games.
Someone's gonna take you up on it.
Yeah.
One of these days, someone's gonna drop down like 25 grand, and it's like, yeah, now you have to do whatever.
Now I look like a pussy if I don't go through with it.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I said, well, that's your own.
Give me that power play.
That's your own big mouth getting you in
power
trouble.
play. Yeah.
I don't feel a little bit bad. Not at all. So he worked as an apprentice gardener. I don't know what that entails, but he did that throughout all of his teenage years, until he was about 25 years old. Now, when he was 25, his dad died, and left the family farm to his older brother. Now, Karl actually got some of the inheritance, some of the money, and he used that to buy like a little parcel of land, because he's like, hey, my family are farmers. I'm going to farm too. You know, I've been working as a gardener, whatever. Apparently wasn't really cut out for farming. Didn't really work out. You know what I mean? So he ended up selling that piece of land and ended up buying a house. Now, he kind of got screwed on this house deal. Like, he ended up, I'm not really sure what the parameters of all this were, but he ended up paying like 3 times more than the house was worth. Like, he got scammed, like, pretty much. And because of that, like, his brothers were kind of thinking, maybe we should step in and, like, help him out. Like, maybe he's not competent to, like, run his own shit kind of thing. Because I think they thought he was kind of a dummy. But as it ended up, he had the house for a little while, and then he, you know, inflation, everything started going up, and so he ended up having to sell it. But he didn't move out. He kind of, like, started renting, like, a little part of it. Like, there's a little apartment, like, next to the ground floor or something like that. Or, like, a shed in the back. It was, like, 13 by 13 feet or some ridiculous, like, tiny thing. But he seemed all right with that, you know? Like I said, he was kind of a loner. He didn't really like mix with anybody, and he seemed okay just like hanging out by himself. So he's living in this little room, and he has like a little stall or a little shop at the weekly market in, and I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Wrocław, which is, I guess that's in Poland now. But yeah, so I guess they had a market and everybody would come there and sell their wares or whatever. And so he started a little meat stall there. Now he said at the time that it was goat meat. Spoiler alert, probably not goat meat. Okay? But we're going to get into that. I will note, this was kind of a funny little anecdote, that his family members and some people that knew him said he was, he was kind of weird. Like, he wasn't mean or aggressive or violent or anything like that, but he was just kind of weird and like off, and he didn't talk much. They said that one thing about him, though, was he was a huge glutton. What his brother said that one time he invited him over for dinner, and he got pissed off because Karl ate 2 fucking pounds of meat by himself, like in one sitting.
I could do that.
You could probably do that too.
Oh, easy, yeah.
But he was just kind of like, bro, it's like, things are tough all over, and it's like we gave everybody like one little portion, and you just like ate more and more, and he just like ate all this food, and apparently like this caused like kind of a rift between him and his brother.
proteins were precious.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. And during this time period, like, really, meat was a kind of a precious commodity.
Yeah.
Like, people didn't really have a lot of it. So for you to sit there and eat 2 pounds of it, especially if you were a guest at someone's house, was real rude. Which apparently his brother thought, because I think they didn't talk for a long time after that. Ooh, did she just turn that light off?
Yeah.
Pookie just turned...
She did it by accident. She unplugged it.
Pookie just turned that light off.
Yeah, and she saw that she unplugged it, got scared and ran.
It's okay, Pookie. You're not in trouble.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of funny that she unplugged it. Ooh, now it's super bright.
Hold on.
Because every time you unplug it or turn it, every time you unplug it, it goes back to the brightest setting for whatever reason.
Should be good. I think that's good enough, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I usually turn it down to the lowest one because it's like way too bright. So yeah, so I thought that was why. But they, his family were like, man, he loved meat, which will take on like a much more sinister connotation as the story goes on. But apparently he's like just really liked meat, you guys.
Yeah, he got a free way of getting it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I put human meat vendor in the title. Everybody knows where this is going, right? So in 1880, he moves to the city of Münsterberg, which is now called, it's now a city in Poland. And please forgive me. I looked up how to pronounce this, and it's not spelled anything like you would think you would pronounce it, but apparently it's called Ziębice, something like that. Even though it's not spelled anything like that. I was just kind of like, oh, okay. When I heard a Polish speaker pronounce it. And I don't even know if I got close. I tried. So he moved there and got an apartment, which was kind of jointly owned by 2 other families. And he was, okay, so people in the community, they liked him. Like, he seemed pretty well liked, pretty well regarded. But they did think he was a little bit of a weirdo. Like I said, he was kind of a loner. And wouldn't really talk to anybody. He really liked to stay kind of in his apartment. Like, he didn't come out and socialize with anybody or anything like that. So they thought that was a little odd. But he was very active in his local church, which I think was Lutheran. Like, he played the organ there, and he was the guy that, like, carried the big cross, like, at funerals. And do they do that at weddings too? I don't know, but he did it at funerals for sure. So he was kind of what they would call perhaps like a pillar of the community. Like, everybody knew him. He ran his meat stall, and everyone thought he was a great guy. So much so that locals started calling him Papa Denke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They thought it was suspicious that he never married, that he never had a girlfriend, he never went to dances in town, or it's a small town, so everyone's kind of, that's like a big social thing. And he never really did that. He just stayed home, went to his meat stall, and went to church, and that was pretty much it. And he didn't like socialize with anybody, so he thought that was like pretty weird. And there were even rumors going around at the time that he was, and I'll quote, neither man nor woman. I'm not really sure why they thought that.
They're
But-
saying he's
Like asexual
Yeah.
is what I read that as.
yeah, neither man nor woman. Yeah. But
Like everyone thought it was, yeah, like I said, everyone thought it was weird that he didn't have a wife or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I will note, like I said, one of the reasons they called him Papa Denke was because he was really well known for his charity. Like, he could always be relied upon to give travelers or people who were down on their luck, like, some food or a job or, like, a place to stay. And he was always he was known in town. Like, if somebody showed up and said, hey, you know, I'm kind of new in town and I need a hot meal or something like that, oh, go see Papa Denke, like, he'll sort you out kind of thing.
It's funny that they said he was neither man nor woman.
Yeah.
And that they used those words. Because, you see, if he's a incel, you know what I mean? Or he's just like a asexual, that's not quite the same. I think what they're trying to describe is somebody who's kind of like a genderless eunuch.
Maybe so.
Or an emasculated male is what I think is probably what they're trying to say. A dickless, as a dude's dickless, which that kind of lines up. I bet you this cannibalism is his is his sexuality.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, probably sexually inadequate. Feelings of inadequacy, he shut all that down, so he's just eating peoples. He's going to get off on that. He became a vor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vor fetish. I'm just trying to imagine how a German of the 1800s, when they use those words, that terms, when they put it that way, what are they talking about? And it's got to be that. Something like that.
Camp guy said he's a big limp dick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe so.
That's what they're talking about. He was emasculated.
Yeah, maybe so. Tammy says, who is back there with Raider? Does Dennis have a new friend? That's H.H. Holmes.
It's H. Holmes. Yeah.
They're hanging out together.
And we don't know how
even though they weren't alive at the same time.
Yeah, we don't know what Holmes said. You know what I mean?
Because remember, I had
there's no recordings of Holmes' voice.
we don't know what he sounds like.
Yeah,
But that's H.H. Holmes there, yeah.
H.H. Holmes.
H.H. Murder Castle Holmes.
Yeah.
Who we did a
He
show
had a
about.
badass murder palace.
Murder Palace.
Yeah.
Like fucking laundry chutes or bodies and all
Yeah.
that kind of shit.
Gas chambers. Locking bitches in vaults and suffocating them.
They're like probably conspiring back there.
Yeah.
Like, they're saying all kind of fucked up shit while I'm not in.
Selling chicks fucking skeletons. Making out with little boys.
Yeah. There's some messed up people back in the good old
Yeah.
days. You know?
That's what I think he was more into that. I think he was into little boys.
Tammy says time travel is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Fans sent us those, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
they weren't cheap. Those are expensive. They're fucking a little custom made.
Yeah, they have. There's not a
Minimum.
huge amount of them.
Yeah.
There's those two. There's two. Actually, there's two Gacy's.
Yeah.
There's regular Gacy and Clown Gacy. I think there might be a Ted Bundy.
Yeah. That's BTK right there. That's Raider.
I don't remember what other ones. They might have more of them now, but I'm not really sure. I'm sure if you search serial killer bobbleheads, like they'll probably come up because they were kind of a thing for a minute.
We use them to aim the camera.
Yeah.
They're always in that
But yeah,
side.
H.H. Holmes,
They're
I've had
always in
that for a
side of
long
the camera.
time, but it's like he was kind of back there and you couldn't really see him.
Yeah.
And I think like on one of the shows, I'm like, man, I got an H.H. Holmes back there too. You should bring him out and they should hang out together so you could see them both.
Yeah. And I don't know what he sounds like, so I can't do an
I don't
impression
think
of him.
anybody knows what
I can't
H.H. Holmes
impersonate him.
sounds like.
Yeah.
You could do like that old school like 19th century
Yeah.
kind of voice. What do you imagine he would sound like?
Probably like some of the very early 1900s recordings of like Confederate generals and stuff, which they didn't have Southern accents. It was more like transatlantic. And we fought the Yankees.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
the Southern accent is...
That he maybe sounded like that.
The Southern accent, as we know it, didn't really exist in the 1800s. They all sounded like something out of Fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
At least the ones that were recorded did.
Yeah, yeah.
But it might have been because being recorded was kind of a big deal, and they were going to put on their best like being recorded voice. You know, I
don't know.
That's probably not really what they talk
I
like.
listened to some long interviews, and some of them were Virginia and other places. And it all sounded pretty much like it came straight off of Pepperidge Farms. It was just like, you know...
Up until, like, the narration from,
Yeah.
like, cheap 50s sci-fi movie.
Yeah. They sound like that. So, a lot of Northerners in Hollywood, you know, they fantasized that fucking the Confederate soldiers all sounded like modern-day Southern rednecks, and they didn't. They sounded like fucking transatlantic announcers from the 1900s. And, you know, it's because, especially, the only recordings I've heard were officers. And the officers came from the kind of like the Southern aristocracy. And they were very Anglo. So, you know, they kind of had an English kind of a accent, or transatlantic. Regular people, you know, like from my family during that time, because they were there, you know, Mississippi, they would have been more Scots-Irish. They may have had that, more of a Southern-sounding accent. But we don't have any recordings of it. But, you know, because ethnicity was a huge factor even in the South. Rich people weren't the same. Usually were outsiders from up north, too. Those plantation owners were not Southern. They actually came from New York and shit.
But so the thing about Karl Denke is that they don't really know much about his quote-unquote killing spree because they didn't find out he was doing this shit until he was killing people that they know of for 21 years, but nobody knew.
Yeah.
So they didn't find out until much, much, much later, like, who he had killed. And even still, they don't know how many people he killed. So we'll kind of do a little bit of a thing, how he got caught, and then we'll go back and talk about, like, all the shit they found in his apartment after they caught him. And they were like, holy crap, this dude's been doing this forever. Now, one person they're pretty sure, because like I said, his whole thing, some people have speculated that it might have been that he was trying to be like joining the church and all this other kind of stuff, that he was trying to be an upstanding citizen, quote unquote, and being charitable and everything like that in order to kind of hide in plain sight, also to have easier access to victims. I pretty much buy that. That seems like something a lot of predators and stuff like that do. Like, they'll try to go out of their way to look like they're super virtuous and, you know, they're super Christian or whatever the fuck. And, you know, and the more somebody tries to convince you that they're a good person, that's the likelihood that they're actually a good person, like, goes way, way down. And so I think that maybe that was what was going on here. I will note, though, that Karl Denke, because I don't think he was the brightest bulb on the tree, he might not have been able to hide it completely, because there was some weird shit going on. He didn't seem like he was, like, hiding it all too good. But the thing about it was that even though he did weird shit, his neighbors didn't really think anything of it. I don't know if it was just the time period and everybody was doing weird shit, or everyone was too worried about their own business and was just kind of like, I don't know, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? And, like, they weren't, you know, but, because nowadays, like, if some of the stuff that he was doing, like, if somebody saw that now, like, he would be arrested, like, in 2 seconds. Like, but back then, not so much. So the first murder that he did that they know of happened in late February 1903. And this was a young woman named Ida Lawner. I believe she was mid-20s. I think she was 25. And she went missing on that date. I believe they did find her later on in his house of horrors. But nobody suspected him at the time. And this was, like I said, it might not have been his first murder, but this is the first one that they're sure was him. You know what I mean? And as the years went on, he would obviously kill many, many more people. Conservative estimate, 31. But they're pretty sure it's more than that.
Damn, he killed that many?
Well, they're pretty sure it's more than that because that was just the ones that he wrote down, as we'll talk about later.
Okay.
But when they went through his apartment and, like, found, spoiler alert, a bunch of body parts, it seemed like it was probably more than that. You know what I mean? Because it's like, this is a lot of people.
Okay, when you were telling me the story earlier, I was thinking that, you know, little details that you gave me, I was thinking we were talking about somebody that maybe ate like 3 or 4 people.
No.
No, he ate a lot of them.
He was doing this for years, decades. He was doing this for decades.
Wow. You could get away with it back then. It's easier.
Evidently.
Yeah.
I mean, he did.
Yeah.
So, this young woman, Eidolon is the first one. Like I said, I'm not saying that was his first victim. That was just the first one that they know of, because they found out later. They also know that he killed a woman in December of 1909, another 25-year-old woman named Emma Sander. Now, in that case, she was murdered, and another man was convicted of it.
Hold on 1 second.
What?
Grampus Hammer's in there. Grampus, it's good to see you, bro. Me and Grampus went to high school together. That's one of my high school buddies. He's an ex-policeman. Yeah, go ahead.
Tammy says, where did all the people come from that he killed? Didn't people start wondering where people were disappearing to? What he generally would do was that he would kill transients or people that just came to town looking for work. So because of the economy at the time, and a lot of people were going from place to place, like looking for jobs, I don't think anybody really thought anything of it. Like if somebody showed up on the train and they were like, hey, go see Papa Denke, he'll give you, a place to sleep or, some dinner or whatever, and then you don't see that person again. I don't think anybody thought anything about it. But that's usually who he would target. People that were just kind of passing through type of thing, like looking for work. So, so he was able to kind of fly under the radar for a very long time. So this woman that he killed in 1909, this other guy whose name is Edward Troutman, he was a butcher, and he got convicted of it. Now, he was arrested in 1910 because he had been the last person seen with her. Like, I don't know if she was a sex worker or if she was just a regular ass person and they'd been on a date or something like that, but he had been seen with her. And
no, this bitch didn't date. That was a hooker.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
But like I said, she ended up. So he actually got found guilty in 1911, and he got sentenced to 15 years. Even though, as they found out later, it wasn't him that did it, and he actually ended up serving most of that sentence because they didn't figure out that Karl Denke did it until way, way later.
Boy, I bet that increased his hatred towards people.
Yeah, I can see being a little bitter about that.
Yeah.
He'd be like, bitch, I didn't do it. Holy crap.
Yeah.
It's just
went to
like,
prison for something he
they're
didn't
like,
do.
yes, you did. And he's like, I bet. And then, like, later on, 15 years later, they're like, my bad. I guess you didn't really do it. That's why I fucking told you. Like, he did sue and he got compensation, but still. That doesn't give you, I think he spent 13 years in there.
Yeah, no amount of money.
No amount of money gives you 13 years of your life
No.
back.
No.
I mean, yeah, it's better than nothing, but...
You deserve millions after that.
I mean, yeah, they should set you up for the rest of your fucking life
Yeah.
if they screw you over that bad.
Yeah, especially if they're taking 13
God
years
damn.
out of your young life.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how old this guy was when he got convicted,
Right.
but I imagine he was around the same age or a little bit older. I don't know.
Damn.
So yeah, that's kind of sucks for that guy. And then to think that Karl Denke was just like he like the whole time, like, hey, I got away with it. Somebody else took the fall for that shit. I
Yeah.
don't know if he did that or not, but you know what I mean.
Probably didn't care.
He probably didn't give a
Didn't
shit.
know about it.
He's just like, oh well, didn't get caught for another one.
Yeah.
I don't
He
know.
was probably worried about all the other ones that were floating around out there they could get him for.
Maybe so.
I don't know how these motherfuckers sleep.
I don't know either. Like I said, they must have like zero.
Yeah. Even if I had one of them in the background, one body in the background, fucking that was unaccounted for, that I hadn't done time for, fucking convicted for, and they're still trying to figure.
It's like all you would think about.
That's all I would think about. I'd be like, man, they're probably gonna get me tonight. You'd be dreaming about it, fucking thinking about it. I wonder how close they are. You gotta be a real dumb motherfucker or be a total psychopath. I'm fucking crazy. I'm not that crazy though, but to not worry about that.
I say something to a friend that I think could have been construed something wrong or something
you
like
worry
that.
about that,
and I
yeah.
worry about that for years afterward.
Yeah.
Much less fucking killing somebody and burying them in the backyard.
Yeah.
I would never. It would just gnaw and gnaw and gnaw.
Yeah, and then they got cops investigating it, fucking trying
I'm
to
too
figure out
anxious to do
fraud.
that shit.
In
I
his
can't.
time, they didn't really have forensics in his day. If they didn't
No.
catch you red-handed, they're not going to get you. So maybe he wasn't under as much stress, but it's the same mentality because the modern serial killers do the same fucking thing. They'll kill and kill again, and I don't know how they're not worried about all those fucking. They're either just, they're just fucking emotionally retarded, or what? I'd be fucking. I'd be fucking sweating bullets 24/7, looking over my shoulder, waiting for the cops to show up.
Just waiting for that shoe to fall.
Yeah.
So would I.
Yeah.
Like I said, I worry about inconsequential shit.
Yeah.
When I probably shouldn't even worry about it.
I
So
worry
much
about
less something-
fucking credit card debts and debts I can't pay. God, this motherfucker must be worried. But they're a special kind of asshole not to worry about
It's
that.
a special kind of asshole.
Special kind of asshole.
Oh, at least the heart said, "Will you do your BTK expression?"
Want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This at least I'm giving you. This is a free one. All right. Yeah. You see, first of all, we haven't heard everything. I can't.
You can't do it. You lost your BTK mojo.
Yeah. He's German and all, but you know he'll never match what I did. You know.
That definitely sounds like something that
Yeah.
Dennis would say.
I was good for the community. He was actually destroying the community. There's a big difference between me and him.
Yeah, you're pretty good at channeling him
Yeah,
because that does sound like some shit.
You
he
know,
would say.
yeah. I was good for the community.
He thought a great deal of himself. You know what I mean?
BTK saw himself as a fine, upstanding citizen.
Who was also a serial killer.
Yeah.
And jerked off on dead little girls.
Well, it was that was a side thing. I wasn't feeling well. You know, it was just
Yeah.
the Minotaur in me. You know, just
It's
you
just
know,
one person.
yeah.
What's one person?
I only did that sometimes. Most of the time, I was being good. I help in the community, make a community a safer place, make sure the grass was cut, dogs weren't running wild,
Yeah.
making sure
Good job, Dennis.
women weren't wearing clothes that were too low cut. You know.
Tempting motherfuckers like me. But
Yeah.
to want to wear that same which is what he was into.
Went to church.
That's the
You
thing.
know,
It's like, there's some things that you can do in your side, your side life or your hobbies or something like that that's okay. And you can have like this kind of upstanding life or whatever. But being a serial killer is not one of those things. There's really nothing good that you can do that will make up for that, even though they seem to think that there is. Well, he did anyway.
Yeah, well, Dennis saw himself as a good man who was helping the community. He was upstanding. And then he said he saw himself. The serial killer part of him was kind of like a secret compartment. That's who he kind of like. That's who he really was. That's what he was really proud of. Is that really actually? But that wasn't who he was normally. In other words, it'd be like Superman and Clark Kent. Most of the time he's Clark Kent. Sometimes he's Superman. And that's the way Dennis saw himself. Sometimes he did that cool shit. But most of the time he was just helping the community.
He basically, because I read a book where he, that Sophie sent me about, like all the letters that he sent to, that I think with Catherine Ramsland. And he had a word for it, cubing.
You cubed it away, yeah.
Was like compartmentalizing, like putting stuff in different little boxes.
Yeah.
The fact that some people can do that blows my mind.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me, sorry. Like, if I have boxes in my brain, they're all spilling over into the other boxes. It's like, I can't put things into a box and keep everything separate. That's not how my mind works.
It's kind of like role-playing.
Yeah. It doesn't work like that. But his did, I guess.
Whenever I see recordings of serial killers talking about their crimes and talking to the police and talking about themselves, to me, I always detect, me as a fucking ex-drama kid, okay, I detect a bunch of role-playing and a bunch of fantasy, They aren't even that serial killer. That's a role they want to have. That's the role they want. It's somehow gratifying them. What they really are is fucking nothing. There's nothing to those guys. They're not even very mysterious. When I watch them, they're not even very mysterious to me. They're very mundane. They're trying to be a lot more than what they are.
Yeah, it's like I said, a lot of them are kind of try hard.
Yeah.
Like they're like 14-year-old edgelords.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of being an imposter. I detect a lot of imposter syndrome.
Like they're trying to be way cooler than they're like coming up with their own cool ass names. BTK.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to get everybody to be afraid of them,
right.
Which is, like I said, I think is why it's a lot more effective to like make fun of them.
Yeah,
because that's ridiculous.
There's really nothing to them.
I mean, yeah, they kill people, but it's like,
Yeah.
come on
and
now.
they're weird, but there's really nothing to them.
No,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Gramthers wish you a happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you very much.
And he also said Coral Watts killed 80 to 100 women in Michigan and Texas, but no one has heard of him. I thought we did a show about Coral Watts. Didn't
yeah,
we?
it sounds familiar.
I'm pretty sure we did. I have to look back through. We've done so many fucking serial killers. I can, but that I know.
If we haven't done Watts, we need to do a show on it.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
we did.
I think we did,
I think we did, too.
but I'm gonna write it down just in case. I'm almost
Sounds
positive.
familiar.
I'm almost positive we did a show about that motherfucker. Yeah. CB says, yeah, Tom and Jenny, a 92-year-old man in England just got 20 years for rape and murder he committed in the 60s. I mean, good. Like I said, there's no fucking statute of limitations, at least in this. I know in some Asian countries there are. But, yeah, it's like, well, fucking D'Angelo was an old fart when they fucking caught him, but it's like, that doesn't mean you can just, oh, he's old now. Like, you just get off scot-free. You still did that shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was a long time ago, but fuck. Like, all their relatives are still alive and shit like that. Go to fucking prison. You know? Alright. So, where was I? Okay, so yeah, so this other guy gets popped for one of Karl Denke's murders. And like I said, from 1903, which is when they think his earliest murder was. Like I said, no one's entirely certain. He actually didn't get caught until 1924. Actually, it was almost Christmas of 1924 is when it was. And this is when he got caught, and that's when the whole charade came crashing down. So here's how he got caught. So it's December 20th, I believe, or around then, 1924. And he goes up to this guy who was, I guess, like a vagrant or something like that, somebody who had just come into town. Now, this guy's name, he was in his 30s. He was like a younger dude. And his name was, I think it was Vincenz, I think how you'd say it, Olivier. So he comes up to the guy and he says, hey, I'm illiterate and I need somebody to write a letter for me. And I'll give you, I think it was 25 pfennig. I'm not really sure how much that is in today's money. I think it's about $10 or something like that. If you'll like draft a letter for me because I can't write because I'm illiterate.
Hey, Sess, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you.
Oh, hey. BTK's sexual problems.
Yeah, I got a sexual
He's
problem.
got sexual problems.
Yeah.
And then he has to make it everyone else's problem. Well, like I said, a lot of them also have...
Well, you know, things happen.
A lot of them also have main character syndrome.
Yeah.
Where they think everyone else is there just to be
Yeah.
used for their
Yeah.
purposes. Which I think might be the root of like all
Main character syndrome.
evil is kind of like thinking that you're the only person that matters and like everyone else is just there to serve you in some
Well, everyone's
capacity.
it's their movie and everybody's watching them. They're the main character in
Yeah.
the fucking movie, and yeah,
That's which, like
Yeah.
I said, fuck man, you're not special.
and
Okay?
and they are watching the movie too. They're one of the main
And it's
observers of the movie. They're
I'm awesome.
yeah,
Look at me
they're
go.
their biggest fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like I said, I've never thought that in my entire life, so it's just kind of like I can't understand.
But
how
I'm telling y'all,
people.
people, fucking, I got a good judgment when it comes. I can feel people's energies, when I'm listening to them, and I have a lot of experiences myself. Most of them I've talked about on the show over time, but there's nothing to these guys.
No.
They're
Well, they're
overcompensating.
They're losers.
They're losers. They're overcompensating. It's like role play, and they're really trying to be something to themselves and others. They're trying to be important. That's what I'm saying. I think this more has to do with neglect and nobody caring about you, or even really recognizing
And they can't
more than abuse.
and
really.
they can't be important like in a healthy way.
No.
Like,
no.
hey, I
In
did
a
this
negative
really
way.
cool thing.
It's about power.
Like they can't do that, or they're too lazy to do
Yeah.
that, or whatever.
They're
So it's
trying.
like,
They're doing this to try to fucking project an image of power.
yeah.
But you always, when you look at the dude, it's not a powerful man. It's a weak man. Gary Ridgway was a weak man. Fucking all of them. Fucking, John Wayne Gacy was a weak man. None of them were strong. Not only on a physical level, but on a mental level too. The only one that might have been physically strong, maybe Ed Kemper might have been
I mean,
pretty
he
strong.
was a big fucker. That's
He was
for
just
sure.
big, yeah, but he was mentally weak. Yeah. It's always a beta or an omega trying to be something. Always.
And like I said, they can't be anything through the regular channels.
Right, yeah. Right.
like in a positive way. They can't
Yeah.
make any positive change or
Yeah.
be cool
Right.
in any kind of good way. So they always have to go this route.
Bundy was probably the best one in terms of fucking like his looks and his demeanor and his charm and what he could do. And he still wasn't all that.
Well, because I think a lot of his problem too was
Yeah.
that he thought, because he was good looking and he
Yeah.
like had an okay upbringing, like he went to law school and stuff like that, but he couldn't hack it.
Yeah, he couldn't hack it. He was a loser in his field.
Yeah, he couldn't hack it.
Yeah. Loser in school. He was a loser in his fucking law field.
And he thought he should do better,
yeah.
and he didn't.
He was substandard. It was overreaching. He was trying to be something he could never be.
Yeah.
But he was still the best one. Which that really ain't saying shit. You got to grade these motherfuckers on a curve. You know what I mean?
That's kind of like the best smelling pile of shit,
Yeah.
kind of, is what we're talking about.
Out of all the serial killers, I'd say that fucking Bundy was the best in terms of looks and what he could do socially, but still, he was a fucking loser.
Yeah,
You know?
like I said.
He's not the kind of dude that would do well in a real social setting. You know?
Well,
No.
a lot of women thought he was a fucking creepo.
Yeah, it's great. Right, yeah.
So,
You put him in a club and he'd lose. Yeah.
yeah, because probably like 95% of the women in there would be like, nope.
Bad vibes. Yeah. And then when you date him,
You
you
can
realize.
sense that shit.
And some women were dating him when he was killing women, and you know, I mean, but you would have found out that he's a fucking fraud. He's not as smart and as successful as he's pretending to be.
A lot of them think
fraud.
they're smarter than they are,
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
I've noticed. Because a lot of them are just average or slightly above average intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not all serial killers are dummies. Like, that's why... I mean, this guy might have been kind of stupid, but...
You have to be average or above average intelligence.
But usually they're
Yeah.
slightly above average.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that if you're slightly above average, a lot of them tend to think that they're super intelligent and that they're
Yeah.
smarter than everybody else, including the cops.
And the
that is not the case.
And for some reason, the public has picked that up. I think it might have been from Silence of the Lambs when they see fucking Dr. Lecter.
Yeah.
Oh, he's there.
That they're all these evil
they're all
geniuses.
No,
No, generally they
No.
are not.
they're just better than a common criminal, so it's so they can evade capture. For
Well, the
longer.
dumb ones get caught.
Yeah, the
right
dumb ones
away.
get caught before they even become classified as a serial killer. They get caught on their first and second attempt.
You know?
Because you had to kill
So
three.
it weeds them out.
It weeds them out easily, yeah. Because
think-
you have to be designated as a serial killer, you have to kill 3. Most of them are caught on the first and second ones.
Yeah.
If you have a little bit average or above average intelligence, you can get more than 3. You'll become a serial killer. But that don't mean you're fucking smart. You're a dumb fuck still. Your
Yeah.
average intelligence is only 100 IQ. That's fucking dumb. You know. You're not talking about 145 or 160 IQ, you know. Those people are smarter. And those people never end up as serial killers. Never. There hasn't been any high IQ serial killers.
Not really. Like,
No.
every now and then someone will flip out like Kaczynski and like become like a terrorist kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of more like a high intelligence / mental
Yeah.
illness issue.
Bundy was probably 100.
That's different.
Bundy was probably 130 IQ. That's pretty good. That's very, very good for a serial killer.
That's quite
yeah.
above average.
It's above
That's
average.
quite
yeah.
above average.
But that's not a genius.
No.
No. A genius is, 145 and above.
Yeah. So, all right. So where was I? Okay. So this 35-year-old homeless guy, or vagrant or whatever he was, he says, "Okay, I'll come in and write this letter for you for $10 or however much it was." So the guy comes in to Denke's place. He sits him down at a table. He gives him some paper or whatever, and he says, "Okay, I'm going to dictate this letter to you." And the first thing he says, like to dictate in the letter, is Adolf, you fat belly. That's how he was addressing the letter. At which point, the guy that's writing the letter kind of turns to him like, what? Like, 'cause what the fuck is that about? Kind of thing, is what I'm picturing. That's usually what most of it says. Either he laughed, or he turned his head like, you sure you want to start the letter like that, bro? Kind of thing. At which point, he sees that Karl Denke is behind him with a pickaxe. I think it's a pickaxe, or it might have been like a regular axe type hatchet type situation. Sources differ. Whatever he had in his house. And Karl brings the pickaxe down on this dude's head. But because the dude had turned his head like that at the last minute, the axe it still kind of fucked his head up, but it mostly just kind of got his scalp. Like, it didn't go into his fucking skull like Karl Denke was intending, probably.
Yeah.
So at this point, the guy flips the fuck out, as you would. And his head is bleeding like crazy, as head wounds do. And sources differ again. It's like either he started screaming in the house and neighbors came to be like, what the fuck is all the screaming? Or he went screaming out of the house and then the neighbors saw him out there. Now, so a bunch of the like neighbors and shit like that like came running to help. The dude's there, like blood is just pouring out of his head. And he says to the neighbor, Papa Denke attacked me. Now, so airtight was Karl Denke's reputation in this community that not a single motherfucker believed this guy. Because nobody knew who this guy was. He was a stranger, right? He had just come into town. He was a vagrant. So they're like, sure, that can't be right. You know what I mean? It's like he can't have done that, right? So, but the guy was adamant. No, Papa Denke, like, hit me with a fucking axe, and, like, y'all need to do something about it. So the cops show up. The cops don't really believe it either. But they ask him about it. Like, I think they even arrested the guy, the victim. Like, because they're like, there's just no way. You must have done something to have that. You know what I mean? Or you must be making it up. But so they ask Karl about it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I did. I hit him. But the dude came in my house. Like, I offered him food or whatever. And then he was going to try and rob me. Like, he jumped on me and stuff. And so the cops are like, well, that sounds like like I said, this was a pillar of the community, right? So everybody believed it. That's like, oh, yeah, that's totally that must have been what happened, you know? Because he's like, yeah, he admitted it. Yeah, I hit the guy. But he's like, yeah, he was trying to rob me. Self-defense. But the guy, so they take both of them. Well, I think they took the victim to jail first. And the dude was just so adamant. He's like, you guys, like, seriously. He's like, the dude hit me with an axe. It was fucked up. I was just sitting there. And finally, the cops are like, well, okay, maybe there is something to it. We don't really believe it. And the fact that he had confessed to, he's like, okay, well, maybe we should go bring him into the police station, too. So they bring Karl Denke to the police station. And they're kind of asking him about it. And they put him in a cell also while they could sort out what was going on. So when they brought him into the police station and they put him in a cell, at about 11:30 that same night, one of the guards went past the cell and found Karl Denke in there dead, hanging. He'd actually hanged himself with his own, most sources say handkerchief. And I know what you're thinking. How the fuck do you hang yourself with a handkerchief? But I think when they say handkerchief, maybe they mean scarf.
Scarf.
Or something like a scarf. Although I've also seen maybe with his own suspenders or a shoelace or something like that. I heard it described, and they said basically he tied it to... What the fuck did he tie it to? He tied it to something like not too far from the ground and then like went, like pushed himself down into the ground or something like that. He basically just like strangled himself.
It was either a scarf or some kind of ascot.
Yeah, it was something like that. It wasn't just like a little like pocket
Yeah.
square type of handkerchief, because that's what I was picking.
It's
I'm like,
a
how the
good
fuck
time-
do you do that?
It's a good time to read what Gramter said down there.
Gramter says 27 years in law enforcement, 95% of the people I dealt with weren't smart decision makers.
Yeah.
5% knew better, but thought they were smarter than the average
Yeah.
bear. Yeah.
So you're talking like 120, 110 IQ. They're just right outside of fucking mids. You know what I mean? They tend to think they're smarter than they are, but they're not. Fucking
That's going to get your ass in trouble.
Bundy, I'm going to put Bundy at like maybe 130, 135.
And that might be being generous. I don't think
Yeah.
he was as smart as he thought it was.
Might have been 125.
I would be shocked if he was that smart.
Perfect law enforcement agent is going to be around 140, around there. If you start getting above that, and this is something that the U.S. Army proved in World War II, because they had all the fucking, it was one of the massive fucking biggest social experiment of all times, was the U.S. Army during the Second World War. They noticed that generals with IQs above 130 actually yielded lesser victories. Because the smarter they got, the more they overthought things. And they failed.
Yeah.
What was better is more like 130. And that would go along with like policemen. You want a policeman to be somewhere around 130. If you're at 130, you're a lot smarter than the average person. But you can still relate to them. You understand how they think.
You're still not so freakishly smart.
You're not so freakishly smart that you can't, that you're anthropomorphizing fucking lesser beings, basically. When you start doing dudes in the genius level, like 160, they can't function. They can't be a cop. Their interests are going to be into more intangibles, like physics and shit like that.
They
or
make good
law,
scientists, though.
science and shit like that. You know what I mean? They're not going to be interested in that. But if you force that dude to be a cop, he would not be able to relate or predict the behavior of a criminal because their IQs are too low. You know, he can't predict what.
Well, like you said,
because he can't think like them.
Yeah, you can't think like that.
Yeah, fucking. So you want a copy about 130? They have what I would call intellectual mastery over people who are less intelligent because they can still predict and fucking. They can still predict the way, say, like a person with 70 IQ would think. You know, and there are a lot of the average criminal probably, you could probably ask the Gramplers, probably, if you're on the average, are probably 80 IQ. Dumb.
Well, I think most crimes are not really like super genius kind of shit. It's
dumb.
just people just doing dumb shit that they didn't really think through.
Yeah.
Is I think the vast majority.
Yeah, so 80 IQ.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's not, like I said, it's not all this mastermind kind of shit. Like you see true crime shows about that, but that's because they're unusual. That's because they're interesting.
And they're not that smart.
No.
No.
Randa says, I saw some testimony of people who knew Brian Kohberger. Didn't he just plead guilty? I thought I saw that headline today. We did a show about him like not too long ago. And he seemed like a loser, a PhD student with no friends. Yeah, that's what I heard too. Like he was okay looking, like he seemed normal looking, but like everyone said he was kind of a loser because, like I said, even ones that look okay, like Ted Bundy, a lot of times they can't completely mask what they are. Like even Ted Bundy, a lot of dudes, even the fucking judge at his trial, which I brought up many times, which kind of blows my mind, was kind of like, oh man, you would have made such a great lawyer or something like that. Like if you'd gone a different direction. I'm like, bro, don't coddle that motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's like he was a fucking creep.
Yeah.
And like a lot of women that knew him said that he was a creep.
Yeah. Grampler said something about IQ down there.
Grampers only has a 120 IQ, but was persistent as fuck.
Yeah. That's still pretty good IQ.
That is well above average.
Yeah, well above average.
Well above average. I think it's only, what is I don't know what the percentage is nowadays, like what the bell curve is.
Yeah.
But that's like a very, very small percentage.
Yeah, you still want to, because when you have an IQ like that, you have, I would say, mastery, you know, over people of 100 in IQ and below. But you can still relate to them. So you can predict what they will do and how they're thinking. You can put you can put yourself in their shoes. A dude with 170 IQ couldn't put himself into anybody's shoes.
Yeah, and it's not his fault.
It's not his fault. It's just that they tend to think everybody is as smart as them. So they would never do that because you could get caught if you did that.
Well, because they would never do that.
Because you would never do that. Because you know you would be caught, but that dumb motherfucker did that shit.
Yeah. People do dumb shit every
That dude had an 80 IQ. He can't think like you. What are you talking about?
But yeah, so where was it? Okay, so the dude hanged himself in his cell with a really big handkerchief. Ooh, we got another super chat. Thank you very much, DVD Dragon. Happy birthday, Tom. May your birthday be different from that of the square. He had a good birthday. Like I said, it was pretty low key. I just took a couple hours off work and took him out for some sushi and got him a cake, and we just kind of chilled out and watched Farscape, and we had a good time. it was a nice. He's not a real big birthday guy. You know what I mean? Because I was like, well, what do you want for your birthday? Like, I was like, he's like, money. I was like, okay, I'll just give you some money. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you some money, I'll take you out to eat, and I'll get you a cake. How do you like that? And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. So that's what we did. So that's pretty much it. He doesn't like a big rigmarole, you know what I mean? I also found him, I don't know if he'll show it or not, but I also got him a birthday card. I found it on Amazon. I wish the kitty on it, because I keep getting kitty cards because they're like funny. Then he keeps getting me kitty cards. We find ones that like kind of look like our cats. And so I found one that had a cartoon kitty on it. I wish she was gray, but if she was a black cat, it's a cartoon cat. But she's making the same exact face that Pookie makes at him. And I just thought that was so funny when I fucking saw that. I'm like, oh my god. And when he opened it, he's like, oh my god, it's Pookie's face. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I found this card on Amazon with this little black cat making the same like with that same kind of face that she makes at him. And I just thought that was fucking hilarious. But yeah. So after this dude... So keep in mind at this stage, nobody knows fuck all about what this dude has been up to for the last 20 odd years, right? They don't know he's been killing people. All they know is this guy who's a vagrant, nobody knows him. He came in and said, hey, Papa Denke, like, hit me in the head with a pickaxe, and that's not cool, and you should do something about it. But all they knew is he's this upstanding citizen, right?
Thank you very much, DVD Dragon. Thank you.
Yeah, he said happy birthday.
Yeah.
He said, may your birthday be different from that of a square. You know, the love of a... Yeah. So yeah. So the cops are just kind of like, okay.
Pimp's love is very different from that of a square.
Yeah. That looks so funny. You can... That's such a great phrase because you can, like, adapt it.
I gotta see that
different
movie
things.
again. You makes me want to see that movie again.
I know, right? So now the cops are wondering, why would this quote-unquote upstanding citizen hang himself in his cell like 5 minutes after we put him, not 5 minutes, but a couple of hours after they put him in there? Maybe he does have something to hide. So they decide they're going to go check out his place. You know? So they go out to Denke's house. And I'm sure whatever they were expecting, they were not fucking ready. I'm just going to say that right now. For what they would ultimately discover. So, of the things they found... Okay, so they go in there. They find a bunch, piles of human body parts. Now, at first... they thought, well, they knew that he sold meat, like, at a stall. Like, his stall was actually really popular because he always had really good, really fresh, tender meat, and it was, like, a good price, right? Spoiler alert, because he was getting it for free, so you know what I mean. He didn't even have anywhere to keep pigs anyway, so I don't really know why, like, people thought he was selling pork. But, you know, in these dire economic times... his meat stall was very, very popular because he had the best meat in the region and at the best price. So people would just come and, like, eat loads of it. And he sold other stuff, too. Like, wallets and suspenders and belts, shoelaces. You can kind of see where this is going, I'm sure. So they go in his fucking place. And they just find piles and piles of bones. At first, they think, oh, it's animal bones. You know, he has a meat stall, like, obviously. But as they kind of start poking around, there's like, you guys, these bones look suspiciously like human bones. Yeah. And also, they found, like, all of these jars of pickled meat, which at first they didn't think were strange. But in light of, like, all the bones that they found, it's like, maybe we should send those to, like, a lab and see if those are actually what we think they are. Because they were being sold as pickled pork, right? Also, they went in his bedroom and found in his closet, like, a whole bunch of his clothes and other people's clothes, all of which were covered with blood. So they're like, well, okay, this
dude wasn't very tidy, was he?
Pretty fucking fishy. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He wasn't super careful. I'm amazed it took 20... It was a different time. I'm amazed it took 20 odd years to catch him.
He got lazy.
He was doing this for ages.
Yeah.
And nobody knew. And, like, he wasn't trying to be super sneaky about it either, it seemed. So they collected some of the pickled meat that was in the jars, supposedly pickled pork, and sent it to some lab somewhere. And the lab, of course, came back and said, that is human flesh. They also found, like, this little journal ledger type thing in his house. And it had... names. He was very organized, very Prussian, as Eddie Izzard would say, of all of the names and dates of the people that he presumably killed. He had, like, their little names, the little dates there, and he also had shit next to it that had, like, their weights, which they presume were the weights when they were still alive, and the weights after he had disemboweled them, like, how much weight of the meat he got off of them. He kept track of all of that, like, in this fucking book.
That's a weird fetish.
Yeah.
Like, why would you care?
I don't know. Now, in the book were 31 people. But all of the body parts they found in the house suggested that it was probably that he probably killed more people than that.
So he wasn't keeping really close.
I mean, those ones he was, but like I said, they found so much shit in there that's like, oh my god, it had to be fucking more than that. They're thinking maybe in the 40s, but they're not really sure.
See, when you hunt deer, I grew up hunting deer too, with my dad in Mississippi. You field dress a deer, so you can carry it. You make a cut down through the fucking sternum and the guts, and you go in there and fucking take all the guts out to make it easier to carry back to the four-wheeler or the truck or whatever. So he was supposedly measuring them before and after. It's almost kind of like a hunter would do.
That's kind of what
you would know.
That's kind of what they. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, maybe he had some
have,
kind of weird OCD, and it's just kind of like
OCDs because
he just wanted to know, like for his own weird purposes.
Weird, because hunters don't really care what the deer weighs. They just care how much meat is yielded. You know, like, okay, yeah, this is gonna be enough.
Well, maybe.
And on a human or a deer, there's not a lot, really. There's really not much worth worrying about on the upper body. It's mostly just lower body, thighs and ass. And on a deer, the fucking two tenderloins that go down the side of the upper part of the spine on either side. That's really where all your really good meat is. In the shoulders and in the fucking neck and shit, there's really nothing there. It would be about the same on a human. You're really only going to worry about the fucking, what you would call the ass and the thighs. That's where all the meat would be. So he's doing this for some kind of fetishistic reason.
Or what I was going to say was that because he ran a business selling pickled pork, which, surprise, was probably human meat, you guys. Everybody in the village probably ate their neighbor Bob at some stage without knowing about it. And like I said, I'm sure that as soon as they found out about it, they just like barfed for weeks. But, because how would you feel? How would you feel if you thought you've been buying meat from this stall for like years and years, and then later you found out it was like human meat? And it was people that you knew, maybe.
Well, here's the thing.
That's fucked up. But I think because he ran a business, so he was saying, oh, I yielded this much meat from this person. Like, he thought he should keep track of it.
Yeah, but
maybe.
I'm going to call bullshit on that. That is a good idea, but I'm still going to call bullshit on him. Because the variation of the yields between people would only be a few pounds, really, on the average. You would know by looking at them after you've done it a few times about how much you're going to make off that if you just sell it. And it's going to, because the difference would be pennies.
It's just maybe he just liked
recording
keeping track of shit. Yeah.
That's what it
you know
was.
how it's like train spotters.
Yeah.
Well, obviously train spotters aren't serial killers, but you know what I mean. It's kind of the same meticulous. They're into that kind of.
I think he's fantasizing that he has a system and that this is like a scientific thing and that. Yeah. But he's sexualizing the whole thing.
He's scientifically luring people into his house, hitting them in the head with a pickaxe.
He's not dealing with
and
body.
then chopping them up.
He's only
selling them to people.
He's only dealing with one race of people, Germans. Okay. He's dealing with two different genders, male and female. And he's going to know what the average yields are. And he's not going to care that much because the difference isn't going to be that much. He's not dealing with any bodybuilders that are having massive amounts of muscle on them. You know what I mean? They're all going to be about the same. And that's the same way Hunter sees deer. They're all about the same. If they're big enough to shoot, they're going to be about the same as the other ones. You know?
And this one, it does seem like all of the people, they didn't identify, obviously, like all of the people that he killed or all of the body parts that he found, because like I said, they were all chopped up, and some of them had been eaten or sold for meat, so they'll probably never know how many people it was.
At least 30.
Of the ones, they know it was at least 31, but they're sure that it was more than that, maybe significantly more.
It might have been more like 50.
But the ones they did later identify, almost all men, but I guess that's not unusual because, like I said, he was in the habit of luring people that had just come to town. Like, hey, I've got some work for you, or I've got, like, luring them into his house for some reason, and then killing them and cutting them up and selling their meat. And eating them, too. He would also eat them.
Well, they basically called him a eunuch, or asexual. That may have been a way of saying that he was kind of gay. And it's easier to get a guy to come with you than it would be a woman. Especially if you're a weirdo like him.
True.
So, that's saying something that they were all men, so his opportunities were only with men. But that's probably what he was targeting anyway, because a serial killer that wants women will get those.
Like,
They'll
he
find
would have
a way.
gone about it a different way.
He would have gone about it a different way and gotten those, right? Yeah. So I think you're talking about a dude who's basically gay.
Yeah, maybe
Gay
it
cannibal.
might have been, yeah.
Yeah. If it was just some random thing, then there would have been a mixture.
I mean, it was a mixture. He did kill some women too,
But
but it
was
does
mostly-
seem like it was mostly opportunistic. Like I
Okay.
said, most of the people that he was getting an opportunity.
Oh, I thought you said
to
they were
lure-
all men.
No, they weren't all men.
Okay.
The ones they identified were, but they know that his first few victims were women.
Okay.
So it seemed like he was, once he got a system established of luring people to his house and then killing them for meat, it seemed like it was easier to get men to come there, like you said, because it was less suspicious, and he was known around town for giving dudes work or like a place to stay or something like that. Because they were coming there like looking for, like, they were transient.
He's getting off on eating these guys, and he's getting off on the idea of other people eating these guys. To him, it's like group sex. You know what I
Maybe
mean?
so.
That's what he's doing. Yeah.
They did determine that his youngest victim was 16 years old, and his oldest one was 76. So he didn't really seem to have much age. Like I said, it seemed like he was just kind of opportunistic. Like, whoever he could lure into his clutches was going to become some pickled pork in a jar. You know what I mean?
Like Sweeney Todd.
It did kind of remind me of that a bit. And they were just kind of, like I said, they were mostly just regular guys, like laborers. There was a couple that were butchers. There were a couple bakers. There was a painter. Gardeners. Just various, like, people that were coming to town, like I said, looking for work, and would come and hit him up. It's like, hey, come and stay at my place. Like, I can feed you, and, like, I got a job for you and shit like that. And then he would do that kind of crap. So yeah. Now listen to this shit. So this report, this was translated from German. And this was a report on the scene that came from 1926. Because, like I said, they didn't catch this dude until the end of 1924. It says, the first findings made in Denke's house during the search were bones and pieces of meat. The latter were in a salt solution found in a wooden drum. There were altogether 15 pieces with skin. 2 parts of the breast, which is strongly hairy. I thought that was funny.
He is strongly hairy, yeah.
They pointed that out. The torso is cut through the middle, 3 fingers above the navel. Its lateral limit is the front shoulder blade. In the piece of the anterior abdominal wall, the middle of the navel is visible. The remaining pieces belong to the side and back parts. The largest is about 40 by 20 centimeters large. Particularly striking was a very clean anus with hand-large parts of both buttocks. So he had a whole-ass butt with a nice clean butthole in his fucking apartment.
Damn. Where was it? In the refrigerator? No, they didn't have refrigerators then.
No, they didn't have refrigerators then.
Damn.
It was
He
just
was
all
having
like,
sex with it.
there's crime pictures. There's crime scene pictures of this.
Have you seen them?
That came, yes, I've seen them. And I think the cops, I don't think that was how they found it, because there are a couple pictures just from when they went in, like how it was when they saw it, but you couldn't really tell what was going on because it was kind of messy. But I think they laid stuff out, like, on the table so they could take a picture of it. You know what I mean? So there's like...
Well, if he kept the ass with the anus, he was having sex
He
with
probably was fucking that.
that. Yeah. That was his sex toys.
Probably.
That's the only thing I can think of.
And
Had to
then,
be.
well, and he for sure ate some of them because, it says there's no
He was
evidence
doing both, yeah.
of vital reaction of the bodies to the cuts made, which means the latter were not made while the victims were still alive. Which, like I said, that tracks with what Vincennes said, that he said, that he tried to hit me with a pickaxe. So I'm assuming that they think that he probably would lure people in there, either under the ruse, like, hey, can you write a letter for me, blah-de-blah, something like that, or I have a job for you. And then he would come up behind you and either hit you with a pickaxe or strangle you with a chain, which is something that happened to another guy that escaped. And then he would cut you up. And so at least they weren't being, like, tortured or cut up while there's, small comfort, I guess. But, you know what I mean? So yeah, so they were cut up after they were dead. Now,
drink?
yeah. Now the report further says, nevertheless, some skin and muscles from the necks were missing, as well as extremities, head, and sexual organs. This is pretty fucked up. In 3 medium-sized pots. This is right from a 1926 report of the people that went in there and wrote a report of what they saw when they went into his apartment. In 3 medium-sized pots filled with cream sauce. No over-under on what the cream sauce was made of. I can probably imagine. Some cooked meat, partially covered with skin and human hair, was found. He didn't even take the fucking hair off. He didn't, like, shave the shit. Like, he's eating, like, hairy-ass soup, I guess. Or hairy-ass Alfredo. Whatever the fuck that sauce was. I don't know. Fucking gross. It's like the meat was pink and soft. They kind of sound like they're getting into it. It's like, ooh, now I'm getting hungry. All pieces seem cut from the gluteal area, which is, you know, your ass, obviously. One pot had only half a portion. Denke must have eaten the other piece shortly before being arrested. So he ate half of some hairy ass soup.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hairy ass in cream sauce.
Yeah, This is definitely sexual.
Hairy ass in cream sauce.
This is definitely sexual. This motherfucker's being.
Like I said, I don't know. They didn't analyze the cream sauce, so I'm not entirely sure what the cream sauce was. Like I said, maybe it was just Alfredo sauce. Maybe it was like some kind of, I don't know, man. I don't know what it was. But, whew, all right. I don't want hairy ass soup, okay? Just saying. I would not go to a restaurant that served that. So yeah, and then kind of in a sort of grimly hilarious kind of litany, they sort of listed like all of this stuff that they found, the other stuff, because they said the place was just stuffed with bones and meat. Like I said, at first when they walked in, it's like they see bones and meat and they think, oh, well, the dude's, you know, he has a meat stall. It's like, it's not that. They just thought it was pork or like other animals or whatever. But then when they started looking closer, they're like, oh no. You know what I mean? It was that kind of situation. So they said they also found a bunch of shoulder blades, collarbones, femurs, let's see, long bones, elbow bones, radii, elbow bones, shin bones, upper arms, heels, ankle bones, 120 toes, 65 feet. I did see a picture of like they had some severed feet and then like kind of a calf and a foot that was kind of sliced down the front. Like I saw some pictures of that. Bunch of ribs, 150 pieces of ribs. They also found a dish that had 351 human teeth in it. They found some wicker baskets that were made from woven human skin. So yeah. Also, this is also a quote from the report. Among Denke's suspenders, 3 pairs were made of human skin. They are about 6 centimeters wide and 70 centimeters long. The leather is not smooth and at one spot broken. It seems not tanned, but only free of subskin tissue and dried. At one point, it is obvious that he made the cuts under the nipples, which are still clearly visible.
Yeah.
Ed Nipple Belt Gein.
Yeah.
Shades of. But this is like the proto-Ed Gein.
Yeah.
4 are patched with human skin, taken from the pubic area. Some traces of louse knits were also discovered under the microscope.
Louse knits?
Pubic lace.
Yeah, lice.
He had suspenders
with lice.
With pubic lace on it. And nipples.
Yeah.
You guys. Suspenders. Yeah. All suspenders show traces of use, and one of them was found on Denke himself. He was wearing them when they brought him to the police station.
Yeah, this isn't the thing. Okay.
He was wearing nipple suspenders with pubic lace.
This isn't a thing of opportunity. This is a sexual fetish. Big time. He's
gross.
getting turned on by this. Same way Ed Kemper did. Or excuse me, Ed Gein did.
I gotta pee.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, this is a strong Ed Gein
Kind of
vibe.
like Ed Gein, yeah.
Ed Gein vibes.
Yeah.
Box of vulvas.
Yeah.
You know? I think they did. I don't think they found a box of vulvas, but they did find a bunch of genitals.
Well, if he's just a straight up cannibal, he wants to eat people, and this is like just a thing of opportunity. He wouldn't be having all these relics, big bowls of teeth, all these fucking artifacts of fucking, suspenders, like German lederhosen, fucking looking stuff. He wouldn't have any of that. And you notice it's all, centered around chest, nipple type area, pubic regions. You know, he's got fucking pubic lice and shit, all this stuff. So, it's sexual. That's the only explanation. If it was just, like I said, if it was just about eating meat, the crime scene would have been a lot cleaner, you know? Because, shit, me and my dad were hunting deer. His house was fucking spotless. And we didn't keep pieces of deer around, you know? No. You used to keep antlers and horns, but that was just to record how many points that deer was, you know? How big that rack was. So, no, this is sexual. Which Ed Gein was sexual, too. It was just like a weird version of sex.
Yeah, he made... Well, Ed Gein, I mean, as most people know, was the inspiration not only for Norman Bates, but also for Leatherface and for Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. Well, no, not Hannibal Lecter.
Kind of.
He was Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill, rather.
Not Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter, yeah.
He was in that
because
same
he
movie.
made a skin suit.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to be his mom. So he made a woman's skin suit, just like Buffalo Bill was trying to do with Silence of the Lambs. CB says, Jenny, I'm sure Tom will come up with a fantastic ass recipe. I'm not doubting that Tom could make a hairy ass taste delicious. But would I...
Fuck, look at these people.
Would I even want that?
First
I mean,
of all,
I feel bad, but Jesus Christ.
First of all, even if you're dealing with pork or you're dealing with turkey, you're going to pluck feathers. If you're dealing with fucking pork, you're going to blowtorch all the fucking hair off the fucking skin, you know?
That's what I mean. It's
So
like he
I
didn't even
don't-
take the hair off.
Yeah, no, he's sexualizing it. That's what I'm saying. This is
Maybe he liked the hair.
He liked that hairy ass.
Hair would be like in your teeth and stuff.
Hairy
Gross.
ass creamy stew.
Mm.
Yeah.
Karl Denke's specialty.
Yeah. Where's Zach? Where's Zach?
He was
in
here
We
earlier.
can get his gay opinion.
DVD Dragon says, ass is low in carbs, non-GMO. No
Yeah.
BBL back then, gluten-free. What's for dinner?
Yeah.
Ass.
High in protein. High in protein.
I don't know, they're pretty fatty in most people, I would feel. But honestly, if you're going to eat a person, please don't eat a person. Unless you absolutely have to. They usually do take... They would usually take the meat off the ass and the thighs.
So the place the meat.
That's the only
you
place
get,
where there's any kind of significant meat.
Maybe off of a calf if the dude had good calves, but no. Most people don't have enough meat on them.
I would not want to eat a person.
Yeah.
They probably... I mean, I'm sure if you cooked it right, like, it would taste okay.
They say it tastes like pork.
Which is fine. I like pork, but it's just
Yeah.
kind of like, I'm still not... I don't think I could get past the idea of it.
You have to take
It'd
the
be
grill.
different if you were like I said, if you were starving like this poor guy's in the fucking Andes, you know, that's different.
Yeah.
Like they were desperate.
You have to debone that shit as much as you could. You have to cook it in an Instapot. Pressure cooking.
Human cooking tips. That's what everybody comes to 13 and class for. Oh my god. Mm. So this motherfucker, when they brought him to the police station, was actually wearing suspenders that had nipples and pubic lice on them. So that's a sentence I never thought I'd say.
Yeah, it was weird. He didn't knock the lice didn't come off.
Well,
during
they're
the
little,
process.
so it's like maybe. I mean,
Were
I
they
guess
attached
not.
somewhere? He didn't see it.
Well,
You know.
okay. So from what I could discern,
Yeah, you'd think they'd just fall off.
because this is a translation from a report, it seemed like the suspenders. I guess he'd been wearing them, and maybe they kind of got worn out in spots, and he was patching them
Yeah.
with other people's skin.
Yeah.
And so I think that patch was newer,
Yeah.
is what I took from
And it
that.
still had lice living on it.
And it still had lice on it
Weird.
that they could see under the microscope.
Wow. Okay. They were alive?
I don't know. It didn't say.
Okay.
It just said
Yeah, because you think if they were
louse
dead.
nits.
Because you think they were dead, they'd just fallen off.
You'd think that.
Lice are not that small. They're small, but they're not
Well,
that small.
they were nits, so that's eggs, right? Like lace
I don't
eggs?
Know. I don't know.
I'm not real sure.
Hatchlings.
Or
maybe.
hatchlings, like
Yeah.
pupa or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not real sure of the life cycle. Of,
Yeah, I'm not into
Of lice.
I'm not into lice. Lice have been eradicated.
So
In North America, we don't have to worry about lice.
I do remember like kids having lice when I was in elementary school. Like they'd always come in and check you for
They
it.
check you for it. I don't think they had it.
I think
remember-
I remember one kid having it,
Did they?
like
Okay.
one time, but I don't. Yeah, I never had it. I don't remember. But they always came in and like checked everyone's heads. Like, and that was in the 70s,
Yeah,
and it was pretty rare even then.
yeah.
And the kid had to be pretty fucking dirty.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Or had to come from kind of a dirty ass household. Okay, so the report also says, besides suspenders, Denke also had leather straps cut out of human skin that he treated with shoe polish, and parts of which were sewn together with pieces and rags of cloth. Many of these laces were made of human hair. One sample was 1 centimeter long, gray-white, and according to study was taken from the head. From which area of the body came the other pieces, this cannot be said. So,
might have been pubic hair.
It's possible he was using pubes to, like, sew stuff up, too.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, he's sexualizing this.
I mean, there had to be something back. Because who the fuck... I mean, why would you go to all this fucking trouble...
Yeah.
If you're not into this shit?
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's sex.
Like I said, if you just wanted to eat people... Or if you were just hungry...
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't make a whole production.
Yeah, and you wouldn't keep all these body parts around.
And maybe he was just thinking, well, I'm just not wasting stuff. You know what I mean?
No.
I'm just going to use everything. Like, what the fuck was he going to do with 351 teeth?
Was
he going to do a craft project or what? Why did he have those?
It was like trophies. Sign of power.
Because they said the teeth, that some of them looked like they had just kind of fallen out, like when the person was being skinned or whatever. But some of them looked like they'd been forcibly yanked out of the jaw, which I assume he did after they died. I don't think he tortured any of the people. Well, that they know of. I mean, it's possible he did, but I don't think he tortured any people before they died. Like the evidence of everything that they found, all the pieces looked like people had been cut up and taken apart like after they were dead.
Did he ever give what his method of killing them was?
No.
Strangulation? Okay.
It was they think probably just based on the testimony of a couple people that got away.
Yeah.
Probably he just like axed him in the head, like with a pickaxe or something from behind, or possibly strangulation, probably with a chain. Like he would just sneak up behind him, like he would lure him in somehow and then sneak up behind him and kill him in one of those two ways. They think, because like I said, there was a couple of people that did escape, which I'll get into in a second. They also found, and this is also a quote, a large number of ID cards and private papers of several persons were found in Denke's room, as well as account books on revenue from the garden, on working hours, and so on. So he was giving people jobs, I guess, but then, like, after a while, he would just kill them. They were relatively well-managed and clear, is what it said. More attention was attached to some loose sheets of paper on which names of 30 men and women appear. In front of every name there is a date, probably the date of death of the person. On one side of the sheets are the initials of the name, followed by a number, which most likely indicates the weight of the person concerned. On another slip of paper, next to a name stands what follows. Dead, 122. Naked, 107. Disemboweled, 83. So he would put that next to...
Yeah.
So he was weighing them...
As he's processing them.
When they were dead with clothes on?
Yeah.
I'm assuming... when he took their clothes off, or whatever, and when he disemboweled them, like how much meat he was getting off of them, I suppose.
Yeah, he was eroticizing his system.
But he had that like written. It's so fucking weird. It's so fucking weird.
Yeah.
So aside from all of the shit they found in his house, which, like I said, there are pictures of it out there, like crime scene photos. Like I said, it's the 1920s, so they're not great. They're like old black and white photos, but like they are out there. They also found in a forest near his house some other of his victims. They found parts of a spine, parts of a dissected male pelvis, which looked like it had been cut in half with a saw, and some parts of a skull, and they said they looked like the top of the skull, I think, had been sawed off also. I will note that they did not find all the bones that were on the property because... in the late 1940s, after World War II, a Polish family or couple bought the house and found a bunch more bones like on the property after. So the cops did find the murder weapon, which they presumed was this pickaxe that he used. I was watching... I mean, I'm sure most of you guys know like, Bailey Sarian. She's like, oh my god, she's fucking awesome. And she did a show about this guy too. And she was talking about, like, him just grabbing the axe and, like, hitting the dude in the head. And she's like, closet axe, we've all got one. You know you know what I mean? And I was just kind of like, yeah, we've all got this. It's just whatever was to hand, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure everything I've seen said it was a pickaxe, but I've seen other people say it was just, like, an axe or a hatchet. Same difference, I guess. They also found a bunch of knives in there, which might have been murder weapons or used to cut up the bodies or something like that. Now, they also found out that Denke had gotten permission from the city to sell shoelaces door to door. Which, wow, that seems like a very specific, just shoelaces. That's all you got? I mean, you don't have any other stuff? I don't really need any shoelaces right now. I mean, maybe people needed more shoelaces back then. I don't really know. And these shoelaces that he sold to all of these people over the years and years were, surprise, surprise, made from woven together human hair. So yeah, they also found out after all of this nonsense came out, 2 other dudes came forward and said that they had escaped from him but had not reported it to the police at the time. One of these was a guy who I think he had gone there for work or for an apprentice job or something like that. And Karl had attacked him and he ran out of the apartment covered in blood, which none of the neighbors seemed to think was alarming at the time. I don't know, man. Like I said, I was watching another podcast. They're like, how many people have to come running out of your apartment covered in blood before somebody calls the cops? You know what I mean? Evidently, more than 2, because that's what it was. So yeah, so that happened, and evidently no one thought anything about it. And there was also another guy who was also kind of like a transient, and he had gone, and he got the same ruse that he had pulled on the guy that eventually got him caught, Vincenz. He said, yeah, the dude, he asked me to come in and write a letter, and I came in and started writing a letter for him, and then he pulled a chain, like, around the dude's neck. Now, this dude was actually bigger than him and actually ended up, like, fending him off and running out, but he didn't report it, as did the first guy that got hit in the head with a pickaxe and was all covered in blood and ran out of the apartment screaming. Apparently, nobody else reported that to the cops either, which is mind-boggling, but okay. There were also, over the years, because like I said, he was doing this from at least 1903, if not earlier, up until they caught him, which wasn't until 1924. So he was doing this for at least 2 decades without anyone being the wiser, evidently. But there had been complaints from the neighbors about a stink coming from his apartment. I mean, obviously, there would be. And they always thought that it was weird that he always had a lot of meat, even though, because like I said, meat was really scarce, like around this time period in this area. And so they're like, they thought it wasn't, well, they're like, well, maybe he's eating dog meat, because some people were doing that, which is fucked up. And you weren't really supposed to slaughter dogs for black market meat. It was technically illegal at the time. But they thought, well, maybe he's just doing that and we're not going to worry about it. They also said that he used to come out and like pour buckets of blood into the courtyard. And apparently nobody thought that was weird either. Because like I said, nowadays you'd be like, well, duh, obviously serial killer. But like back then they're like, he's a butcher.
They were more naive.
Yeah, and well, yeah, and they were just thinking, oh, well, he runs a meat stall. It's just pig meat or dog meat or whatever. Also, a bunch of his neighbors heard like sawing noises and stuff at night coming from the back of the apartment. Nobody thought anything about it. They said, oh, he's just cutting up meat for the market the next day. It's totally not weird. And this, okay, so this is kind of weird too, because they said some people actually did go to his house and complained about how bad it smelled. And be like, bro, what the fuck? It's like, what are you doing in there? Like, it smells so bad. And it's like leaching into our apartments, right? Which I'm sure was horrifying. He told them, like, he could have just said, this is how weird this dude was. He could have just said, hey, look, like, I'm a butcher or I run a meat stall. It's like, I cut up meat in here, processed meat in here. I'm sorry. Yeah, it stinks. He could have just said that. What he said was that he had some illness, he didn't specify what it was, that necessitated him killing dogs and making, like, a medicine out of their fat.
What kind of weird shit is that?
And that's what the smell was.
All right.
And a testament to the time period, the neighbor's like, oh, okay, that sounds legit. I guess.
It's crazy.
Like I said, all he had to say was, oh, I'm a butcher.
Yeah.
Because he did sell meat. I mean, yeah, it was human meat, but nobody knew that at the time. They just thought it was pork. So obviously, you'd be processing meat in your apartment. And like, yeah, that smells. So it's like he could have just said that, like, hey, whatever, sorry. That's my business. But he made up this whole weird story about having some mysterious illness that needed specifically dog fat.
Ridiculous.
Maybe he didn't want to get in trouble because the rumors were that he was killing dogs for meat, even though it was much worse than that. So he just said that, like, so he'd have a reason for killing dogs, but still not get in trouble for killing people. I don't really know. I don't really know what his logic was. You know what I mean? Yeah. So remember that guy, the butcher, Edward Troutman, that got convicted of the murder of the woman, the second woman that he killed, and got 15 years in prison. As I said, once this motherfucker got caught and the whole, magnitude of what he had done, came out, they finally, again, sorry, and they let the dude out. I think he was in for 13 years. You know what I mean? And so he did finally get out, thankfully, and he did sue for damages in 1925. And as all of these details started leaching out, everybody in the village, in the town, starts to realize, to their dawning horror, that they have likely eaten human meat. If they bought meat from this dude, because that's what he was selling.
Yeah.
He was eating it too, clearly, because they did find evidence that he was eating it himself. But they found jars and stuff of, pickled pork, the same jars that he sold at his stall. So anybody that bought meat from this motherfucker over however many years he lived there ate their neighbors without knowing. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And it's like... And then I was watching Bailey Sarian, and she's just like, and to this day, everyone in that town is still a vegan. She's like, I'm just kidding. But she's like, it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, it's just because you can't fucking trust where that meat's coming from. I don't think about it too hard, but it's that would be messed up if you found out that you'd been eating human meat for 10 years and you didn't fucking know about it. The crazy thing about this, as fucking nutty as this case is, it kind of got forgotten about a little bit. It wasn't really widely known in the United States, at least, until fairly recently. Because what happened, as I mentioned earlier, was that his shed, in the shed that he lived in, in his garden, was destroyed after World War II, and they found a whole bunch of skulls and bones and stuff like that when the new owners took over the property. And then people started looking back into it and being like, oh yeah, this motherfucker. Everybody had kind of forgotten about it. And they even did a little, it was this little museum there. It was some museum, because he said what it was on the Time Suck podcast, but he's it was some lame ass museum, the Kitchen Utilities Museum or something like that. And it's he's I don't know why they would have a museum for that in the first place, and why they would want to put a display of it. Well, I know why they would want to put a display up, is so everybody would come there, because it was a lame ass museum that nobody goes to. But it's just so they had a display. I don't know if it's still there or anything like that, but for a while they had a display with all the crime scene photos and stuff in this tiny ass little museum. But yeah, so to this day, I guess now that everyone sort of knows about it, they call him the Cannibal of Münsterberg, or the Forgotten Cannibal. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about why, in particular, his case was forgotten, largely. Even in one podcast I listened to had, an actual German woman on there, and she was saying, even in Germany and Poland and stuff, it's it's not super well known, still to this day. And they think it might be because another motherfucker who was almost exactly like this, in the sense that he was a serial killer, a cannibal, and sold human meat to others, good old Fritz Harman, who we did a show about, I think, a while back, was operating at the same time. And he actually got arrested only a couple of days before Karl got caught.
Stole the line.
So he stole, and the thing about it too was that Karl committed suicide in prison and didn't confess. Whereas Fritz Harman and some of the other cannibals, when they got caught, they were like, yeah, I did this and that. They were proud of it.
Yeah.
So the media had a fucking field day, because obviously everybody loves to read that shit.
Yeah.
But because Karl Denke didn't really give them anything to work with, because he killed himself, he never confessed, So they didn't entirely know like what his motivations were or like what the fuck exactly happened. So they reported it, sure. But because Fritz Harman came along and he got arrested and then his trial was like, you know, over the next months, too, I think he kind of stole all the headlines. And their crimes were so similar that I think Karl kind of sadly got buried underneath Fritz Harman's craziness.
Fritz Harman upstaged him.
Yeah, which is fucking insane to
Hand me
think
that
about.
drink. I'm gonna get some of that drink.
Oh, okay.
How much? We don't have a whole lot left, do we?
No, just like one more paragraph. And I'm gonna say, like I was saying about the Germans and the cannibalism, like what the fuck is that about? Because Karl Denke and Fritz Harman were not the only cannibal serial killers operating in this area at the same time period. There was also another one called Karl Grossman, aka the Berlin Butcher. He was also, just to be extra special, also a PDF file, child molester. He ended up murdering prostitutes after having sex with them, and also sold their meat on the black market. And ran a hot dog stand at a train station where he sold human hot dogs. So, same kind of shit. There was a lot of this shit going on back then. I don't know what the fuck was going on. And they think this guy, Karl Grossman, killed minimum 26, possibly more than 50, between the years of 1913 and 1921 that they know of. So, what the fuck, Germany, Prussia, Poland? This is a very specific... These three guys, and I think there were more than that, but those were like the three most famous ones. A very specific killing people, eating people, and then selling the meat to others, like in kind of a public way. What the fuck is the deal with that? Like, what was going on? Like, and you know, I've seen like some stuff that tried to say, oh, you know, the economic conditions and stuff. Yeah, I get it. Like, meat was scarce, and you know, some of them were probably like, hey, I'm already a fucking sicko, so it's like I could get free meat by killing sex workers and chopping them up and selling them as hot dogs. You know what I mean? I get how that could happen. But, man, for that to happen at least 3 times and possibly more in that same short time period, in that same relatively small area, that just kind of fucking blows my mind. That's crazy. What the fuck? Like I said, Germany.
I don't know.
/ Prussia / Poland. What the fuck was going on back then? I don't really know. But yeah, so eating humans. Yeah, CB says, what is it about German serial killers always gutting and eating their victims? Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah, Tammy said, yeah, he had nipple suspenders. Tammy said, kids had lice when my daughter was in school in the early 2000s. Okay, so it's still around.
I don't know how you get it.
Well, you get it from another kid, but like...
Okay. Kind of like bed bugs.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think it necessarily has to be like that your house has to be like dirty or anything like that, but it does. They do spread like pretty quickly. Like, so if you have one real dirty kid in your class, he can give it to the whole class. That's why they always were worried about checking, you know?
Yeah.
Remember they used to check for lice and they used to check for scoliosis. Did they still do that?
I don't know.
I remember being in, I guess I was in 7th grade, which if you're not from here is about 13.
Yeah.
And in gym class, they made you take off your shirt and you had to bend over forward and like put your hands like that, like down like that.
Yeah.
And they had to like look at your spine and make sure your spine was straight. I'm just like, what? I don't understand like why this is such an issue. Like, of all the things you could be checking,
Yeah.
why that? It seems like, and I know some people do have like really bad scoliosis where it like fucks you up and you can't like walk correctly and stuff, but it's like, it seems like a not that big of a problem.
So that was a good show. I never heard of this guy. I'm glad you brought this guy up to be voted on, because yeah, this is a weird one.
I mean, the cannibal serial killers, as fucked up as it is,
Yeah.
are always kind of a morbidly entertaining show to do because you can make all kind of like human meat kind of
Yeah.
jokes.
Do you want to go to Circle K?
Oh, you're already fishing to go
I'm
to
fussy.
Circle K.
I'm fussy.
He's getting fussy.
I'm getting
already.
fussy. It's late, man.
It's not
Either
really.
that or- yeah.
It's not even 10 o'clock.
Okay.
But okay.
All right. If you want to stay on the show.
No,
let's
if
stay on
you
the show.
if you want to
Okay.
go to Circle K, you
Yeah.
can go to Circle K.
I'm hungry. Aren't you hungry?
Like, no, I'm not hugely hungry, but
Okay.
I could get something.
All right.
What are you gonna get? Like the whole? You just gonna get something from the case, or are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna get something from the case.
All right. So we are gonna wrap it up for this evening because Tom's got to go to Circle K for sandwiches. Why you turning all my lights on?
Because.
Oh, was there a bug?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Get it. Oh man.
I saw him.
It wasn't a big, huge one though.
No.
It was just.
I saw him.
I mean, it's not small, but
No,
it's not.
I saw his ass.
It's not like as scary.
It's raining outside.
Like yeah, they all
Try to
are
come
just
in.
like, ooh, gotta come in. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get wet.
Yeah.
I don't know why they care about getting wet. They crawl around and shit all the time. I don't know why they're all fussy about fucking rain. But yeah, all right. So we're gonna wrap it up for this evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this very fucked up show that we did this evening. You know, nipple suspenders. Just that's the one takeaway from the show. That's the one thing you remember. Just remember nipple suspenders with pubic lice. Yummy. And also ass cream stew.
Stop it.
Delicious.
Stop it.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up for this evening. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Thank you very much for your very generous super chats tonight. Tom really did appreciate it. It was, like I said, his birthday yesterday. So that was really cool of you that you guys remembered. And we will be back again for the Friday night show, Sidetracks, which, of course, is our favorite show of the week, where we just drink and talk about a bunch of bullshit with you guys, and it's always super fun. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Have a good rest of your evening. Have a good day tomorrow. And we will see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.